That's how you did it. I know.
So we're on the bottom of page 4?
4, yes.
All right, so bottom of page 4, this is into expenditures related to general admin of the city. So obviously we talked about salaries and employee-related benefits. So we'll start with, I guess it's education and training line item. This line item has to do with education and training for anybody who is a regular admin employee. So Shane, for example, would be in this line item. I think Judge Cates might be in this line item if he needed to do some training or education. Any kind of training that Shane goes through will be pulled out of here. Also, I think there's, yeah, that's pretty much it. We have uniforms. There's a uniform allowance of, I think, what, $300 a year, is that right?
A year, yeah, so that's for the janitor. She's paid
So then we have some general line items: postage, printing and duplicating, publicity, subscription, and dues. These are basically, obviously, if we're mailing anything, just the mailer related to the change in, yes. Oh, that's all it is. Okay, so discount that.
But any other service out of general fund.
Yes, anytime we do a mailing or somehow if we have to, email things occasionally, not just to citizens, but also if we're doing, one example might be if we're doing an audit and we have to have confirmations and things like that. That might be out of this line item. Those are fairly similar to exactly what they were last year. We don't expect a lot of change in there. Electric has to do, obviously, with the electric and water have to do with the utilities related to the building itself, and gas, for that matter, and telephone. Trustee collection fees. This is related to the fact that we pay people to collect money on our behalf. People being Shelby County, we pay them to collect certain revenues that we lack the infrastructure or the software or the time to collect on our own. So that's what you see in that line item. Legal services, this line item is related to any kind of legal services the city can expect to incur this year as it relates to general city government. Obviously, the fee that we pay to the new city attorney is contained in this line item, as are I don't think there's any other potential line item or potential other payments that come out of here. I think that's just the city attorney, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think that's right. We bumped it up a little bit because his rate is slightly higher than what we were paying Chris. And, obviously it's going to be my job to manage that and make sure that we, again, manage it effectively. Mike he seems to be a great guy. He loves to talk, and I just need to make sure that we manage that. I always get paranoid when I call because I know that in the back of my mind that meter's running. So I want to be concise, but yet I want to make sure that I'm getting as good information as well. So that's going to be something I would have to keep a close eye on.
Bond fees. This line item is related to the litigation that the city is currently in related to the 2017, I think it was 2017 IDB revenue bonds that were never issued. That litigation is ongoing. We reduced it somewhat from the year prior, with the expectation that litigation will come to a close this year. Accounting and auditing services, that's obviously the fees that we pay to our auditors who will come in, I think in August, and start the process to make sure that our finances are in order and we are in adherence with all the material facts of an audit. Data processing services, I believe this is a portion of the This isn't it? Okay, no, I lied, sorry. This data processing line item has to do with government-wide, so citywide services. So for example, we have Outlook and various other, what's the word here, Microsoft products. So yeah, everyone who has a Microsoft license, their fees are paid out of here. We have Adobe Pro, which is a tool that we can use to modify and create documents. There's some WebEx fees. Adobe Pro and WebEx are both new products that we're going to be integrating into our budget this year, so that's why that line item is slightly higher than it was the year previously.
You talking about data processing?
Yes.
Proposed versus, I'm just looking versus actual, I thought it was lower.
The actual is $17,340.
Oh, I'm looking at actual to 17, 18, sorry.
That's
actually 16, 17.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Yes.
Okay. Yep.
Data processing services also includes our live stream, which is how we broadcast our events to the public.
Is your money to improve this?
We're gonna get to that.
Okay.
Eagerly anticipating that one. Okay, so the property tax commission fees. So this is a percent of property tax less delinquency and interest. So we pay Okay, let's back up for a second. So that trustee collection fees line item that I talked about earlier, trustee collection was $22,000. That's not actually related to collections, not through Shelby County. That's MLGW collection fees, which includes fire, stormwater, and other items like that. So that's not related to our property tax collections. That's just MLGW collections. They do those on our behalf.
Is that a percentage or a fixed amount?
It's a percent. I say 2% of my notes. I'm not sure what 2% of what.
Yeah, I think that's correct. We need to renew that agreement, so that'll be coming back before you. Mike is reviewing it right now.
Okay, so now we are back on property tax commission fees. So this is the percent that we pay to Shelby County for collecting property taxes on our behalf. That makes sense there? It is. Yeah, that is a lot.
This is what we get it, I guess.
Yeah. Other professional services, I think this is a catch-all line item that we have estimated in case we have to have someone come out and perform some kind of maintenance on the building or some kind of service that we have not assumed explicitly will happen in this budget. That's what this line item is used for. We have a repair and maintenance line item related to vehicles. Obviously, the city has a number of vehicles that it uses for city business. This particular line item is obviously just for regular admin vehicles. We have a line item related to buildings. This line item is a little higher than the previous year, and that's because we have accounted for improvements to the infrastructure of the building, such as network upgrades. If you've ever tried to use the internet in the building, you realize that it's not great. So we're trying to improve that. We also have phone upgrades. We have several colleagues whose phones don't ring, or whose phones will drop calls, or whose phones will, you can never dial into your voicemail. Our phones are so old that they are not supported anymore through whoever Shortel built them and they don't support them anymore, so we can't even order replacement parts. So I think that's a dire need. So that's included in this line item. And then, did I already mention the board upgrades? I don't know if I did, but we contemplated upgrades in this room, whether it's the sound system or the projector, as well as the conference room as well. All of those items are included in this line item. HVAC and, sorry, what's the question?
I was just gonna say, what this line item doesn't address, which we really want to cut out there, I got some money in here, right? This item doesn't address. So if you notice the windows on that wall, many of them, the seals have broken, and I look out to a window that you can't even see out of, which kind of drives me nuts, but that's just my issues. So I've removed that from consideration at this point. There's obviously higher priority things that I think we need to address. Instead of replacing windows with seals that are broken, we'll just adapt.
Unless the moisture's getting in.
No moisture's getting in. And we are getting some moisture, if you noticed, on that window, which is a little concerning. Certainly don't want to harm that stained glass, but we're getting a little bit of moisture on that one corner that we need to address.
And just as a reminder, the 2016-17 in the middle, I believe that was a new roof.
Mhm.
Yes.
The other thing that this building line item does not address is possible security improvements to City Hall. We talked at one time of having cameras or increasing our coverage, not only here, but also at IH. I think the coverage at IH is particularly abysmal. I didn't even know there were cameras in this building, which maybe is a great security deterrent or maybe a terrible, I don't know. But, so none of the cameras or security improvements are contemplated in this particular budget. We just couldn't find more money. So HVAC and electric. So this is for maintenance to our HVAC specific items. So what's really interesting about this line item is if you ever go into the lobby in the afternoon, it's either blazing hot or freezing cold. And essentially, the HVAC technician has told us that we will require some work at some point in the future. What that work looks like or the scope of that work, I think is up for debate. But that line item will likely, either that line item or the buildings line item will likely see some of that work in the near future, if I had to guess.
Yes, there's no duct work in that lobby area, so Kyle is right. It's cold in the winter, and we haven't been here. I haven't been here in the summer, but I'm certain that it gets hot and humid in the summer. So that would be kind of a dedicated unit that would need to go in that lobby area to address that, which I think is needed. But
Travel and meals and entertainment. This is obviously anyone who's traveling that isn't related to a specific endeavor. So for example, if I was to travel, I don't know, to Murfreesboro, but it's not related to my finance duties, perhaps I pull it from this line item. So that just gives the ability for people to get to their particular locations, whether it's for CPE credits or city-related business. Meals and entertainment, this line item is not only for those people who are traveling to be able to eat while they're away from their office and away from their home, but also this line item, I believe this is used to support a number of city functions. So we'll have, an activity in around Thanksgiving and an activity around Christmas. Thank you. I couldn't think of that word.
I know the feeling.
There's also obviously like the food that we provided tonight is out of that, or anytime we do something we have staff meetings every month, that food would come out of this line item as well. Contracted service. Contracted service is a number of different line items, or a number of different activities rather. So PFMs, retainer fee is paid out of this line item. I think there's a portion of, our IT consultant salary is paid out of this line item, and other services like that. The reason it looks so small, if you look at the year-to-date column, it's only 3,000 of the 65,000 rather, is simply because we haven't been invoiced for a number of those items yet. So we would expect that the year-to-date to closely reflect that actual amount. Ambulance service is $277,000. Obviously, that's to provide ambulance service. Keep Lakeland Beautiful is a line item that was originally in solid waste. And I think we moved it out of solid waste to general fund because we couldn't accurately say that it was a solid waste related activity. This is more so for
No, so it, before when we had to keep Lakeland, and the, I guess it was a board commission, whatever it was, they did a lot of litter pickup and stuff like that, so then that was justified as solid waste, but the last couple of years it's been used mostly for like the landscaping of the gateway signs, and we have bought some holiday decorations and things like that out of it, so, I felt like it was appropriate to move it out of solid waste because we're not purchasing things related to solid waste anymore, so it's the same amount that we have had budgeted in the past several years that I've been here, and we just moved it to general government just so that it was appropriately.
Well, the Parks Department would like to try to regenerate that,
Right.
that function of that committee and go ahead and apply for our Keep Lakeland Beautiful certification and try to get some volunteers, hopefully through the volunteer advisory board and other people who have maybe done that in the past that would like to come back, so.
If you think that the activities in this next coming up year would be more reflective of solid waste, so like litter pickup and things like that, we can move it back there. We don't have to put it in general fund. I just, because this last year or so, we've been buying.
I don't know what it will cost to apply for the certification that you have to have.
We can look at that.
So, I was gonna bring you all that from my Parks and Rec report at the next work session, but that will be discussed at that time. And Kevin was doing all the background work to see what it was gonna cost and
Yeah.
try to generate it, because we did let the membership lapse.
Yeah, okay.
It did lapse.
I can probably look back and see kind of what it cost in the past.
Okay. Because 12, that seems high, 12,000.
Well, that's because it was used, because other things, it wasn't just the
Spread.
certification, it was,
Right.
because, the KLB they bought, some nicer trash containers and the cigarette butt containers, and, they did litter cleanup, so that, had some disposal, and it also had, the vest and
Mhm.
wrappers and bags, and
Right.
so, they had other expenditures, and then plans, because they were planning plans too, but.
So like when we do volunteer pickups, that equipment's from that? Okay.
Yeah, we'll have to do that.
All right.
So we could switch that back, if you want to switch it back to solid waste, that would be fine if we're actually gonna start utilizing it that way, I'm fine
Let's
with
see what
that.
we can find out
Okay,
about getting it started back up and see if there's any interest in the city for people to come back and serve on that. Okay. Thank you.
There's a contingency line item. This is obviously just a contingency. If we underestimate anything, we'll have some money to allocate to whatever underestimation we may have to make sure we don't have to amend the budget. Obviously, if you expend more dollars than you have budgeted, first, you're not supposed to do that, but to the extent that you do it, you have to amend your budget to reflect that expenditure. So this contingency amount allows us to make sure we have some room for error in our estimations. Office supplies and materials, that's just general office supplies, so that could include paper and things like that. Operating supplies, I think operating supplies are related to chemicals that we use to clean, custodial, things related to that. Bank charges, in case we have a bank who charges us, I think, for example, we have an American Express card, and they're charging an annual fee. Things like that are in this line item here. Gas, oil, and diesel, I don't.
What's up there?
And we do have new cars.
Your card under this.
We give you a
Yeah.
call?
Yeah, thank you.
Keep going.
Good work. Ain't nothing like it. Tell 'em.
All right, so, we have, insurance, obviously, on these buildings, and, this amount, I believe, is going to remain stagnant. I will double check with, our insurance agent, to my knowledge. I think I did reach out to him, and I think he did say this was okay, but I want to double check, but it's been a lot since the last time I remember talking to him. We have, liability insurance and then surety bonds, which are for, I think, all the directors. I'm not sure if they extend to the board members, I think they do. But that's just in case, one of us absconds with somebody, there'll be, some protection. And then, this last line item at the bottom, computer upgrades, $10,000, that's assuming that the city has some, computers that they have to upgrade, obviously, those are mostly PCs. I know Shane has a pretty terrible computer, and some other people have computers that are aging out. So those are things that we would want to, include in this line item. Any questions related to, government? All right.
Do we have a policy for cycling, computers out, a life cycle?
We sort of did. It was, so we were trying to cycle them every 4 years, but then we had a flood, I think it was in 2010 or 2011, and was it 2010? No, not the natural disaster, our hot water tank back in the new side of the building, so. Yeah. So a lot of the PCs over there got replaced that year, and so it kind of messed up our 4-year cycle, because then it was too expensive every 4 years, so we've kind of been, so Logan, our IT consultant, he'll keep a few extras, and then he swaps them out kind of as needed. So it has been every 4 years in the past, but we've tried to extend it kind of as far as we can.
Is it a lease program?
No, we purchased them.
Have you looked into the lease programs? Because that's what we use in our schools, and it ends up being very cost effective.
No, but IT, I try to stay out of IT, so that would be a question for us to ask Logan, though, to see if he's ever considered that.
You're saying Lakeland schools or?
Oh, no, Bartlett.
Oh, okay.
Lakeland does it too.
Lakeland has an Apple lease.
Yeah, we use Apple, we're Apple schools.
I got you.
Yeah.
And then, Lakeland schools use Chromebooks.
Oh, yeah, they
Just
are.
Chrome,
Those teachers use Apple.
Okay.
Yeah. We can talk to Logan about that.
Why is that line in the IT?
I don't know if we have an IT.
Well, the GIS, yeah.
Because he's not IT. I don't know, it's all general fund. It's all general fund, so it really,
He's a custodian, doesn't he?
Yeah,
not really.
Okay.
He doesn't like to be referred to as that person.
Even though
He
we
kinda-
use him
Yeah.
in a lot of cases, Logan is so overwhelmed at the school
Yeah.
that we have a hard time corralling him when he's here.
Yeah.
So we rely on Josh for some of those responsibilities too.
Curious, I know businesses have accelerated with the change in technology so rapidly to a 3-year cycle, so it's years.
We do a 3-year lease.
So we did it. I hated it, but everything working the way I wanted.
You just gotta work it in.
Everything's set up, that's what I told him, I was like, I'm still good.
Yeah, that's
I don't want to turn it first, like, I'll take the old.
Sorry. Had a term for it.
Okay, this next group of expenditures, total city court, this is of course related to, fines and citations that the city issues if they choose to go to court, we would have that here. The permanent employees, I believe that's related to, Judge Cates, who is paid not on salary, but rather per number of cases that he hears. To my knowledge, there is one case that has been heard this year and another one on the docket. I would expect that the slow pace of court cases would continue, which is why this line item is kind of written lower.
not a corresponding, income line.
For court cases, there is miscellaneous.
Oh, okay. I wonder about that too, 'cause I thought we would start picking up some kind of,
Okay, $1,000.
If you go to page 4, there's the city court fines and costs. I haven't budgeted anything in that line item for this year, simply because there hasn't been any collections for the last several years. But I think, if I remember correctly, that court is relatively new, so maybe that's a, maybe I should.
We can certainly put something in there. We actually would like to come back to you with some consideration for raising our court costs, make sure that we're covering our costs appropriately. So we're pretty close to having that ready, I would imagine, by now.
Yeah, Tiffany, who's the city court clerk, and Wiseman Bray, in their capacity as former city attorney, has put together a resolution for us, or at least an ordinance. So we'll be able to speak on that a little bit more at some point in the future. So yeah, we can put a number in there.
does that include any kind of fines? Let's say people, like, some things that are not properly stored, whatever, that's, like, John Heisman fines, is that in there somewhere? Like,
Hypothetically, it would be in that line item as
oh,
well.
okay, okay,
I can get with John and figure out what that amount should be.
yeah.
I don't think it has any fines per se, I think it just goes, if they don't comply, I think it goes to court. I don't think we have any fines in our,
Which was funny, like, you get things not on your trash
Yeah.
can, like you need to move it, it's like, we had nobody.
Now that we have the court, we have some
yeah, so it's
teeth.
court calls, but I think what's that, like $50 or something?
So actually,
Yeah.
Well, we could adjust it.
That's what, yeah, that's what they're working on, because that's the issue, is that
max fine was $50 from the city.
I mean, it'd just be another source of revenue, I'm thinking, because you got plenty of people that,
When we have that conversation, we get with John, just like see if the implementation of the court has helped people compliance faster. I'd be curious, because you know, part of the court wasn't just a penalty part, it was trying to give people reason to be more in compliance. I'd be curious if it helped.
I think we're gonna see it, I don't think the court was, active during the mowing season, and I think that's his biggest challenge, is the mowing. And so I think we're gonna see a huge uptick, during the summer months. It's kind of slow during the summer, there's just not a whole lot of lights from.
So we're on boards and commissions. Okay, so obviously that's there's some salary and the salary-related benefit line items here. In addition to that, there's an education and training. I believe some of you took advantage of this for the MTAS training I was offered, let's call it December or so. And that's about it.
I thought the utilities in the first,
Yeah,
utilities was
utility
the some requirements. and
Yeah,
then go through.
we can do that online, or MTAS offers it.
I think the closest is Jackson, unless you can get them to come here, but they'll charge you,
Can you do
So-
it online?
Yeah.
Is it free
I
online?
think it's through the comptroller's office, is that right?
I thought it was
I'm not sure.
not the whole 12 hours.
Not the whole thing.
Yeah, it's a 12-hour requirement.
All the cities are
All
gonna
these-
do it up on
yeah.
you just
Partner with
talk
another,
to
yeah.
the other mayors or cities.
Class
Well,
in Germantown
Hartwell
was
just
packed,
did
and
their,
they on the new elected officials.
I didn't know
I had to
that.
go there.
They pay for it
More
themselves.
efficient, yeah.
I know Arlington had shown interest, and probably Bartlett also.
Yeah, we can try to set something up.
And split the cost.
Yeah.
Seems like a little bit, we probably get some food, Gus is like a good option.
Is it? Haven't been there.
Yes.
What?
Gus is fried chicken. I know, and then you've got, that's a Memphis tradition.
I'm new.
You think it's
I'm
overrated?
exploring.
I didn't give you lists, I didn't
You
put
made it out
them.
the
That's
slingshot.
fast.
You made it out the slingshot Charles.
Yeah.
Yeah, but slingshot Charles, yeah.
Close.
What's that?
This is your
It's
neighbor, this is your neighbor, right?
cooking.
Go pick him up.
Home,
Our northern neighbor.
Where,
next time we go to Slingshot Charlie's, you and Michelle.
what's the other day?
It's good.
We'll give you your box ticket, so.
Now, you do have to go, home and
It's
take a
not-
shower because you smell like, the grease.
Right.
Yes, but it's yummy.
It's not all
Or you can just
fun,
fall
but-
asleep that smell.
Have a candle.
Oh, there's still a fried chicken.
Okay.
Okay, so we're on finance administration, so again, there's salaries and related benefits and all that good stuff. We'll skip down to,
Benefits are almost as large as salary.
yes, benefits are expensive, and they keep going up, and most of that is due to health insurance and, insurance in general, so, yeah, hard to,
Hard to swallow.
yeah. But you know, I think it's important to continue to offer those benefits, because I would argue the city is at a competitive disadvantage when it comes to recruiting and retaining.
You don't have to argue with me, for sure. It's definitely worth it.
And that is certainly something that I would like to explore, looking at a compensation, maybe partnering with MTAS to kind of help us work through that, and providing employees the opportunity to have step increases built into their wage schedule. Right now, we hire employees and they're stuck at where we hired them at, and they don't have that opportunity to achieve higher income. So we certainly want to be competitive in what we pay. Make sure, right now, Public Works is a revolving door of folks going to surrounding jurisdictions because there's maybe other opportunities for further advancement or steps. So certainly something I want to explore, and as we look at, what Shelby County is going through with potentially, raising their wage schedule, to $15 an hour. Right now, our Public Works folks start at $13 an hour. And what we ask them to do on a day in, day out basis, it's a concern, and it's a concern from how do we keep these folks, especially when we go through the process of training them, investing in them from a training aspect, and then they go down the road to the next community because they're getting a little bit more money. So
Yeah. Retention is very
Yes.
important.
yeah.
So the education training line item, you'll see that that's grown fairly substantially from the previous year. That line item is comprised of, so there's education related to, in order to be a finance director, you have to, there has to be a representative at every local government who is a CMFO. That's a certified municipal finance officer. I'm going through that training process now. And so you will be required, I will be required to have ongoing training, CPE credits. So that's reflected in this line item. There's also a Society of Human Resources managers. As the HR director, I'm also enrolled in that program to get a professional certification in human resources. That's part of that education as well. And then there's tuition reimbursement. The city has a policy for tuition reimbursement. I'm enrolled in grad school right now for a master's in accounting. And so that is part of that line item as well. I will.
You're gonna get certified, we're gonna lose you.
No, I'm here.
You have to wear both hats.
Yeah, there's a lot of people here who wear multiple hats.
I think y'all are one of those things that almost a full-time job.
Yeah.
You get something wrong there, I mean.
Yeah, we
We
got
don't-
good employees.
I know we have good employees, we're working to death. He's asleep.
What are the total number of employees? 35. 34. No, 36.
There's a range.
Yeah.
36 is
Oh, sorry.
Publicity, subscription, and dues, that line item is going up because there are organizations, excuse me, with which you can affiliate, so GFOA is the Government Finance Officers Association, and they are a national organization that affords you resources and other tools that you can use if they're like best practices. You guys were asking, hey, should we, I don't know, should we think about, I don't know, charging for sodas? Is that something that cities do? You know, I could go to that website and peruse and get some feedback from other finance officers and they can say, hey, we do this or we don't do this. So that's one of the uses of the publicity subscription dues. So that's for GFOA, which is government finance, and then for SHRM, the Society of Human Resources Managers. That website is great because it has a bunch of policies that we can pull. So, you know, if we're, Shane wants to pursue this compensation policy, we could pull job descriptions where we could say, okay, if you are a level 1, then you'll be called a, I don't know, I can't think of it.
We're number 1.
Tech 1, and Tech 1 job description, we can just pull from that website and modify a little bit. So it affords us some resources that I think are useful. The telephone line item, this is a line item that you'll see in most of these other segments. This has to do with the city giving a $60 credit, I guess, to directors for the use of their phones when they receive work calls or do work-related business on their telephone. This travel line item increased from $3,500 to $4,500. That's to account for the fact that there are, again, CPE credits that you need. Some of these conferences and events are local, whether that's, you know, within the state or within the region. And then some of them are national events that you will have to travel to. So the reason that it increases to account for the fact that there was no, contemplation of SHRM National Conference last year, and I did expect to go to that this year, so that's why you see that number increase. The cost of the SHRM National Conference is somewhere around $1,500 for the early bird pricing. I think you can get slightly earlier, and it's like $12.99 or something like that, but it's expensive. But that does satiate a bunch of your CPE credits, so you could knock them out in one fell swoop as opposed to going to several different events which would total the same amount that you're paying for one event. So that's why you see that amount here. The $500 is just for food that you would expect to eat when you're, you know, away from your office or away from your house. And then there's a contingency line item as well.
I will say just a general comment, you know, there's a tendency when budgets get tight to, you know, first look at, you know, education, training, and start removing those line items or bringing them down. I think there's great value in having employees that go out and get training, making sure their CPE requirements are up to date, and just value of networking with peers. In my case, being new, next week I'm going to the Tennessee City Managers spring meeting in Knoxville for a few days. So just being able to meet for the first time other city managers in the state is going to be very valuable for me. Obviously, there's a lot of breakout sessions that will be very valuable for me as well. But having those opportunities for employees to kind of stay updated on what's current and the opportunity to network with their peers, I think is really important.
Ready to move to engineering? So I'll just, one thing to note about salaries, I did not take a pay reduction. We split, in years past, we split, the city engineer salary was split between general fund, solid waste, and sewer, because I oversee those departments, and so we decided this year to split those back up again, so it's a third for each of those funds. So that's why you see a reduction there. As well as the staff engineer, I believe, was split as thirds also, because he also provides support to those areas. So education and training, so I attend we're members of APWA, that's Public Works Association, so we have a state conference. We also, I'm a board member on the ASC, that's American Society of Civil Engineers. They have a conference as well. We have Stormwater Conference and then SWANA, which is the Solid Waste Association. So that money accounts for those conferences just because I wear so many different hats to keep updated on kind of the regulations. And like Shane said, it's so valuable to have those peers across the state. I had a call last week from someone in East Tennessee who was looking at adjusting their stormwater fees because they hadn't adjusted them in 10 years or so. And so he was calling around to some people that he had met at other conferences and just looking at what everyone else, what their processes are. So I've done the same thing. It's just really helpful. So just to reiterate kind of what Shane said. Let's see, going down. Publicity subscriptions and dues. That's the dues for the different professional organizations, ASCE and TINSA and SWANA. Telephone, that's 2 employees, so myself and the staff in here both have the monthly allotment for personal phones, yeah. The architectural engineering and landscaping, we did reduce that just to try to bring the budget to balance, or somewhat balanced. 15,000, so I use that for any kind of studies that might come up that I can't do internally because I don't really have much software. So if there's like a hydraulic analysis I need to do or a traffic study or something like that that's going to require professional services, then that's usually where I pull that money from. Sometimes, some years I've had to use it, some years I have not had to use it, but that's what that's for. Let's see, other professional services, that's also similar. So anything other than this, than say engineering, that would kind of take care of that. Travel is just associated with the conferences, meals and entertainment also with the conferences. The contingency is a little higher in these line items because this is where the large capital projects are. So that's just if there's an underestimate in any of the budgets. Gas, oil, and diesel, so we share a vehicle with planning. So that's the fuel for that vehicle. Let's see, Huff and Puff, that project is done, so there's no more monies accounted for that. New Canada Road, so this year would be 500,000 is expenditure, but, that's an 80% grant, so it's offset by the 400,000 in revenue. That includes getting the right-of-way certified and getting just that kind of stuff wrapped up, getting the final design completed, those kind of things. Let's see, Beverly Rivera, that's complete. The FEMA grant, that was the Houston property, that's also complete. Canada Road Bike Path, that is the TAP grant that we got from both NPO and TDOT. I expect to fully expend those funds this year. So it also is an 80% match. So we get that as often as monthly, but no later than quarterly is how we send it for those reimbursements. The ADA transition plan, that is also, so the grant amount was $350,000. Our portion is $70,000, but since I utilized TDOT's on-call contract with Kimley Horn, and so we do not have to do reimbursements. We do not have to budget that whole $350,000. TDOT handles that, and they just tell us, they just bill us for the amount that we owe for our match. So we don't have to go through reimbursements. TDOT manages that contract, so it's really kind of a sweet deal there. So that's only, so you won't see an offsetting revenue for that because we're only showing our match. Are there any questions on engineering?
When do you expect to actually see pavement or stuff on the Canada Road bike path?
Hopefully by early summer. I hope to get it bid in maybe May.
Completion,
We have to have the funds for construction obligated by June. or we lose it. So we're under a tight deadline. And so to get them obligated, that means you have to be pretty much done with your bidding documents. You don't have to bid it yet, but you have to have them complete. And then get your notice received from TDOT. So I expect the consultant is supposed to have everything wrapped up the end of April. We took it to the planning commission last week. It'll come before the board just as a presentation this next month in April. And then we should be getting it bid May, and hopefully start construction in June.
What do you think timeline was? 6 to 8 months, or is it a little bit longer?
To complete it?
Yeah.
Probably, 8 months, around that. Depending on weather, some of it, there's quite a bit of concrete work, so if we get that kind of knocked out here while it's warm, we should be,
Summer's good.
yeah, and get it. Definitely will be done before the end of the fiscal year, next fiscal year, the 20 fiscal year. Let's see, so next is construction inspection. We have 2 inspectors, 2 full-time inspectors. They did ask for a slight increase to overtime, so because we're seeing a lot more development, we only have 2 guys that are doing the inspections. We probably will expect that they'll have to account for a little bit more overtime so that they're on site. The most important things that we want them to watch, that we would call them in for overtime or have them stay later is, when they're doing anything with roads, putting in any road work or pipe, sewer, or stormwater, anything that we're definitely going to have to maintain going forward. So we try to have them on site watching that installation. Let's see. Education and training. So they're this year they're looking at an inspection certification and a stormwater certification. Those are through the Public Works Association, APWA. So that's what that money is for. Telephone, so they both have cell phones, but they also have those hotspots for the tablets. So that's built into the telephone line item. So that's why that looks a little larger than some of the other ones. Repair and maintenance of vehicles. Let's see. So they, one of the trucks has to have new tires this year, and then of course oil changes and things like that. So it's going to have that kind of got bumped up for the tire replacement. Travel goes along with the certification. Let's see, uniforms, so they're actually split, 75% out of general fund and 25% out of stormwater fund. So their uniforms, you'll see $450, and then the other amount, they get $300 apiece, so the remaining $150 is in the stormwater fund.
Quick question, so like with tires or things like that, do we get like is there a city discount, like do y'all work with vendors where you can get a lower rate for?
Gateway's been pretty good on the prices they've given us. We haven't gone and gotten other quotes, but Gateway's typically come in pretty good for us.
And our guys do a lot of work ourselves too, right?
Yeah, so in Public Works, we've got a couple of guys that are pretty good mechanics, and so on some of their fleet, they've been changing the oil, and especially with the equipment, maintaining the equipment, so we haven't been sending that out. They've been doing quite a bit of that, especially the equipment, because sending that stuff out, it takes a long time to get it back for one, and it's really expensive when you send it out to the specialty shop. So they're really good at keeping that stuff up.
That's great.
Let's see, gasoline, diesel, that's just, their fuel that they use. They have 2 vehicles, 2 trucks. Tools, that's like marking paint, spray paint. They have some temperature gauges like for asphalt, and things like that. So it's kind of some rain gear. And then we are asking to replace one of the trucks. So the truck that one of the inspectors drives, I think it's like a 2004, I put it in this write-up. And we've got some pretty expensive maintenance that's coming up on it, 2 things that are probably gonna be around $4,000. And the truck is hardly even worth that. So we put $20,000 in. It may be that the last truck we bought was about $35,000, but we couldn't fit that into the budget. So it may be that we get something that's slightly used, or maybe instead of a full-size truck, we get like a Ranger. But he's definitely in dire need of another truck. I
And
don't
there
really
is
want
a place you can contact that works with the state and government agencies that do give you a better price on vehicles to send.
Yeah, so that's what we've gone through in the past, so anything that's on state contract, or we're also a member of NJPA, National Joint Powers Alliance, and they work with government agencies and schools and things like that, so they are a national bidding group, and then they offer that pricing to, so, yeah, we definitely use them because, you get a lot better pricing whether you're trying to do a lot of times do it yourself. But I don't know, we'll see on what we can get from whether it can be a brand new one or it might be slightly nothing that's got a lot of miles on it, but I really don't want to invest another $4,000 in a 2004 Ranger. I mean, literally like its last leg. So, are there any questions on construction? No? Public Works. Alright. So one thing, like Shane said, we have seen a huge turnover in public works over the last year to two. And the biggest thing that I hear, you're all going to major municipalities, and the biggest thing I hear is I can go there and either I'm promised step increases or, you know, I can make even $1 more, but, you know, they give increases steadily, you know, every year. And so, so I have sort of, right now the way the department is made up, we have the supervisor, and then we have maintenance 1 and maintenance 2, and that's it. And we have employees that are performing much more job functions like crew leaders, and even one guy that essentially is like our supervisor's like right-hand man. When he's out of town, he takes care of it. He really oversees the field crews. And so what I've done is I've talked to other municipalities and I've sort of set up a new type, I guess, org chart for that department to try to retain some of these guys.
Like her.
Yeah, and so I'm going to kind of pass this around, but it just gives an example of the positions. Now, all these positions definitely aren't filled, and I didn't add any new positions. These are just steps. So we've got guys that are maintenance 1 or maintenance 2, and they can move up potentially to an operator position, or they can move to a crew leader position. So it just gives them something to work toward. And each step is a 5% increase, right? And they start at $13 an hour, and so each step would be a 5% of the chart. And I think this mimics some of the other municipalities, Bartlett and Carnival are the two that I really talked to extensively about it. And so I have put some step increases in the budget to try to retain some guys. I've got 2 guys right now that are literally ready to walk out the door, and I said, just, you know, let me pitch this to the board and let me see if I can get this going. And they've both been here for over a year, and that's about what we've been seeing is you reach that year, and, you know, Bartlett's hiring, and Arlington's hiring, and Shelby County's hiring, and Shelby County's paying more than anybody else, and, you know, how can we be competitive? How can I keep these guys that we've trained for a year? So this is sort of my proposal to try to get ahead of this and try to start retaining some guys. We've got some really good guys on the crew. I don't know that they all work really hard. They all are dedicated to the city, and I would hate to lose any of them. So, so in the budget, I have worked in step increases for some of the employees. There's a few that are brand new, and so I didn't put that in for them. But for the ones that I felt like had earned it to this point, I added that in. So some of them are in public works, some of them are in street aid, and we have one position in solid waste that is the knuckle boom truck driver. So I don't know if you want me to go into, do you have any specific questions? Okay.
Is the turnover, let's say there's only 3 levels right now. So is the turnover?
Really 2,
Well,
Martin's
yeah,
spot
use
is
the top
not-
right.
Yeah.
It says really 1. So it makes sense. So as far as turnover, is the ones who've just been here a year? Is it the guys who are, in other words, they've learned the ropes and they know how to do things efficiently? Those are the ones that are, you have higher turnover than the ones who are still kind of learning?
It's really both, so usually they're here about a year,
Yeah,
and then past that,
that's the life.
yeah,
the
yeah.
life.
And some a little less, but usually they get to that year mark, and there's nowhere for them to go, right? And so, so the maintenance 2 position, this is how it's sort of been viewed in the past. So the maintenance 1 was your traditional laborer, maintenance 2 was sort of the team lead. Because we had to have there was some issues in the department where, the maintenance 1s, if they had a maintenance 1 that was serving as their crew leader, they would make comments like, well, you're the same pay grade as I am, you're the same level as I am, so why should I have to listen to you? And so, so then we said, okay, well, the maintenance 2 is the team lead. Well, not every maintenance 2 is what I would consider to be team lead material. So there needs to be a distinction
More
between,
distinctions as well.
a maintenance 1, which is your entry level laborer. A maintenance 2 is someone that's been on the job for longer, maybe is not a team lead, but someone that has learned some more skills, more than just entry level guy. Then you've got the operator who runs the equipment. So it gives them some places to go and some goals to achieve. And it would be based on their annual performance evaluation. So they would be given goals. If they met those goals, then they would be eligible. Is sort of how that would work.
Will they max out?
That would be according to the pay plan, which I don't know if that's been put together yet.
No, officially, not just push together.
And so that's sort of kind of a loaded question because, so they've got 5% for each increase. So if you started in as a 1, which is most people start there. So if you go 5% up, multiple, 4 or 5 steps.
Go from 13 to 1365 in the first step, that's 5%.
Right.
And then if you go up another, it goes to 1433.
Right.
I mean, it's not astronomical, but at least it's something to shoot for.
Right, and then we get our cost of living and things like that. So the pay plan scale, always is sliding based on the federal rates and things like that, but,
Do you think the new software is gonna help us? When we brought Beehive on, we also brought a second road crew on, so that we could, the idea was to kind of use, Beehive to help tell us how efficient or how good of a decision the second road crew was. And then, we got like a collection in pounds of trash and stuff of that nature. That's really the extent of what we got.
For accountability.
Do you think that the new software is gonna help us in that regard or not really?
yeah, the reporting capabilities in the new software, either packages that we're looking at are just far outweigh. So Beehive, we can pull more data than just litter collection. It's just difficult. The reporting feature, so you can query it and you can pull it out kind of in a spreadsheet, but it doesn't have a great report. Like there's no report wizard or anything like that. It's just clean. And so the data's there. It's just you have to manipulate it to get it into like a format that you would distribute, right? So the data's there, and we will take the data that's in Beehive and put it into our new system. I mean, it's not useless data. We have good data. We just
I
haven't.
just thought that would help, like, we come forward, we say, hey, look how efficient we are, these guys need more, we need
Yeah.
When it's kind of a moving target, it's kind of, because a lot of these, Lakeland takes up such a vast area, it's hard to see everything that's being done.
Well, I think you can see, so when we get to the street aid budget, you can see this last year we broke out just for that crew, for the patching crew. I mean, that's pretty much all they do, for 8 or 10 months out of the year. And so we budgeted a certain amount of, asphalt, and that was kind of based on some numbers that I was seeing in Beehive. And they are there, as far as spending that money. So they're,
No, go ahead, finish your thought, and I've got a question. Sorry.
so, I mean, I am using it to sort of predict, kind of the efficiency and kind of the productivity of how Public Works has sort of evolved. I mean, since we've changed the management in that department, our productivity is through the roof. I mean, like, we had all these backlog work orders, we do not have those anymore. You know, I mean, the street patching is something that is always revolving, and so that, you know, stays constant, but they stay on top of those work orders, you know, quickly.
What are these these crew leaders and these persons that are
I don't, so it's just a 5%, there's not anybody at this point, that I have budgeted to be a crew leader. I do have, the streets and drainage supervisor in, and then I have some that I would bump up to an operator, and then some of the ones that I would bump up to a 2, but I haven't designated for any of them to be bumped up to a crew leader yet.
Just the crew leader, that will get you $15 in a nickel.
Right.
1505 at that level.
Right.
So,
So say you went out with a crew, so the operator would be the one that would be over that crew, until someone moved up to a crew leader. I don't want to start filling
I understand.
some of the top positions, because they
The reason I'm
still
asking
need some
about,
steps to work.
an incentive to get there.
Right.
this minimum wage creeps up and people start getting $15 an hour. These guys at the top, you know, we pay $17 an hour.
Shelby County, talking about.
Yeah, Shelby County.
Yeah,
I mean, we're, as far as the $13 an hour start, it's not much and it's low, but it's not much different than anybody that, I mean, Cardinals is actually
Well, I know.
slightly less
But it's
ours.
just-
Bartlett is slightly more, so,
I dealt with a small
Yeah.
term in janitorial, but still I had to pay that, if someone was a lead in the building. I made
yeah.
them pay a good bit more than that general cleaner and the supervisor made a lot more.
Sure, yeah. So you've got the street drainage supervisor, which is, I mean, obviously paying less than the public works, manager, but he's sort of the second in command, and he's already doing the job, he's been doing the job for like 2 years, and just graciously stayed on with us, because he
Who
loves
was
the
that?
city, and he loves to work Bill. So, you know, I think we're not gonna be able to keep him
Much longer.
if we don't, you know, and he's, you know, I mean, these are guys that, if we have an emergency on the weekends or at night, I mean, you know, the flooding of Stewart Road, I mean, he is on top of it. As soon as it overtops the road, he's out there,
I
putting
get
the
it.
signs out, and he's pulling them up as soon as it goes down.
I lived here for 30 years, I get it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Those folks like that, you've got to.
Yeah.
Question. Are they seasonal? Are they all 12 months out of the year?
That is, yes, so I did add some, because I did not add any new employees. I did add 2 temporary employees. It is to help with mowing.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. We're getting ready to start that season.
So the gentlemen though that help us with trash collections are the same ones that will go out and do the parks and common areas and roadways.
I don't know where
You're talking about what, the same public works employees?
Yeah.
To go out and do the
Well,
mowing.
Yes. they
Yeah, that's
are.
what I was,
Yeah, so parks maintenance is included in public works.
Right, I was just making sure, so the gentlemen that do the patching, you said 8 to 10 months out of the year, are they just doing,
They primarily stay on patching.
yeah,
And then in the summer, we mostly take the second crew and they mostly cut grass. Now, we did include, this year, to spray the parks to try to help us out a little bit. Just the primary ones, so Windward Slopes.
right,
Ike Park and Oak Ridge.
have they started yet?
We did
I haven't
have
seen
some
anything
money.
built in yet, so I was wondering.
No, I don't think they have. It's
I was
out for
wondering,
bid,
'cause that was-
actually, the bid opening is.
I think that would save us in cuts, because that,
Yes.
instead of cut every week, we could do it every other week.
Yes.
Once we get the Windward Slopes under control and a few other spots, you know.
Yeah,
And maybe around the diamonds look fine, it's just some areas around there, like by the Waffle House and other spots, if we get that under control, it would save us in the end, just because we
Yeah.
could reduce cost.
yeah, yeah.
Cutting.
Yeah, so it's the same, it's not the street guys typically, because we have to keep that crew going, but it's, the rest of public works is pretty much absorbed with mowing between the right of ways and the parks.
Which line item is that in the other?
For temporary, so under public works, it's temporary wages, I think it's $1,000. So that's 2 guys for 2 temps for 8 months, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you mentioned the treatment, you're using Herbie systems right now, you said that's a bid.
It is our bid.
They're the most expensive guys in town.
Well, so
Unless
yes,
they give y'all a break.
but the other
They
piece
know
of
their
it,
weeds.
the other piece of it is they're the only company that has the equipment to spray the right of ways. So they have a trailer mounted piece of equipment that sprays 10 feet out along the sides of the road, which is one of the biggest things that we.
There's a license for it too, isn't there, something?
I think so.
Because I think
He
you
sprays for
residential is
burglary.
a totally different kind of license and everything, so it's something you have to kind of commit to, otherwise it doesn't make sense
I
to
saw
do.
that, and I remember seeing their bid for my house, for everybody else.
I mean, we competitively did it, so we publicly did it. The pre-bid was today, nobody showed up. It's not really that alarming because it's not mandatory, but I expect that they will probably put a bid in. I don't know if anyone else will. I don't think anybody bid against them last year, or it was 3 years ago, it was a 3-year contract.
We can compete if they can't spray those right of ways.
Yeah.
And
I
that's
think
where
they
it gets
developed
old
the
and ugly and
equipment.
it collects trash, it gets too high.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Overtime, so overtime includes also anything, parks activities, so we have the lamp concerts that Kevin likes to have 1 or 2 guys at to clean up trash and help with parking and make sure, you know, if anything goes wrong with the lighting or the restrooms or anything like that. We also have the cleanup of the IH clubhouse on the weekends. Anytime it's rented, we have to go on the in-between days, so on Sunday morning, clean up for the next rental on Sunday.
Do we recoup that, that's for the fee, the IH clubhouse rental? No?
I mean, it may go in
Wash.
general fund, I'm not sure.
Sorry, what was
You
the
charge them.
I don't collect those
Do we-
fees, I just have
Well, the-
invoices available.
We're
There's a
sort of-
deposit you have to pay too, that's.
Yeah, I was wondering if we got money back, so we're paying these people to clean up, is there money coming back from the?
That's your normal custodian, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't believe so.
She cleans up during the week, but we have Public Works will come in, 2 guys from Public Works will come in on the weekend if we have because it has to be set up. So they have a specific layout for tables and chairs and things, and one, you know, she can't do it by herself. So they come in if it's on the weekend, and it's a 2-hour minimum, but it usually takes them about 2 hours.
So we essentially lose money.
You're getting breakfast 2 hours. I had to pay 3 hours just to show up.
9 hours.
If you don't trash IH, you get your deposit back. I think some of that deposit, this is probably a better question. I think some of that deposit is for custodial services, but it does not equate the actual cost of custodial services. I think that's.
We might adjust that, huh?
Just during the week, say we're usually during the week. And she
They
goes
are.
in next morning.
Yeah, then our custodian that's on staff, she goes over there 2 times a week, I believe. They are in the senior center. Yeah. She does the main cleaning, and then on the weekends, if they reset over here, we just on Monday, the guy.
The extra schedule on those, we're expecting about 39, 40,000.
That probably, yeah, I'll fix that, yeah. I'm not involved in the resolution, I just okay, let's,
One thing I'd like to point out real quick is insurance, mental health, life, that $93,000 number, that's much higher than this year. It's probably because the people that we just hired, I still didn't come with family insurance, which of course is much more expensive than individual insurance. And I did that just to make sure that we had budgeted appropriately if they were to use family insurance. To the extent that they don't, we can reduce that amount, but it's unclear right now. You have to be here for a month until your services kick in. So once I'll have a better understanding, we can, revise that.
Okay.
education and training, so, we need to send someone to get their tornado siren certification. There's also a parks equipment certification that Kevin would like for one of the employees to do, so they can do, inspections of the parks equipment, playgrounds and things, and then, we usually send, we do sort of like a little mini, equipment rodeo in-house. Public Works Association has these competitions, the statewide level and then at the national level, and so one thing we did to kind of, something fun for that department during Public Works Week, we had our own little, equipment rodeo, and whoever had the best time on the equipment got to go to the state, conference, which this year is in Chattanooga, and, compete in the state rodeo, so that's something neat for them to do, and compete against other, municipalities. So that's what's included in education and training.
Like a bucking tractor or something?
It is, it's pretty skilled, like, with the backhoe, they pick up like a,
Quarter.
no, almost, they pick up a pin and put it down in the top of a cone. So they pick it up and put it down with a knuckle boom, it's like a pin, like a collar
Oh,
pin.
okay.
And then the knuckle boom then pick up a little concrete block, which is about that big, off of the ground, and pick it up and turn it, put it on the other side on an X on the ground without breaking the block, and make sure it's in that exact spot. And then there's something with the backhoe, with the tennis balls. You have to set the tennis ball on the top of a cone. So it's a challenge. Let's see. Publicity and news, that's, we have a citywide APWA membership. Let's see. Uniforms is actually in this account, for some reason, uniforms is down further. So you'll see one uniforms line that's blank, and if you go down further, there is one. So we have a lease with UniFirst to provide uniforms that are laundered, as well as $100 food allowance per employee per year. The contracted service, I kind of speak of that one, that's for hazard tree removal. So in the right of ways, if you have any trees that are deemed hazardous, that could fall on the road during a storm, then we go on and have those removed. A little preventative maintenance there. Gasoline and diesel, so, that, we have quite a few, of our fleet that is in public works, assigned to public works, so that we've been running, fairly high in that line item, so, I think I moved it up a little bit this year just to make sure we don't run over. That also includes equipment, so like, let's see, maybe the chipper or, the leaf back or something like that, we'll take go to that. Backhoe, skid steer, things like that. Let's see. The other equipment, parts and repair, that is just maintenance on equipment. Tools, so included in tools this year are from the concrete saw, that's about $2,000. Some chains, replacing some chainsaws, rain gear, shovels, rakes, that kind of stuff. Is in tools. Safety supplies, that's our vest, gloves, goggles, lights for vehicles if we need a new vehicle. The street drainage improvements, we're taking that has in the past sometimes been our stormwater projects, our capital projects. We did all of that out of the stormwater fund this year, even though there's a transfer from general fund, we just kept it in one account. And then the sirens and installation, that's just maintenance on our sirens. Are there any questions?
What about drainage ditches?
Huh?
Are we doing drainage, clean out the drainage, just drainage?
Yeah.
Just on the roads all anymore?
Yeah.
We are?
Yeah. Is there one that we need to go?
Well, no, just, I heard of it earlier in the year. I heard
Yeah, they typically, they try to go around and do them periodically, but we really hit them heavy in the fall when the leaves start falling. If we have these storms, we try to go out and make sure they're clear. I would say maybe quarterly they drive around and look at them.
You still can do the drainage over in the retention ponds in the neighborhoods?
No, the retention ponds are owned by the HOAs, with the exception of one, I think that I know of, the one off of Canada Road. But everyone, and actually we're required to go inspect those and require the HOA to do the maintenance on them.
I know.
The staff has not had time to go out and perform those assessments, but.
Would the city do that for an HOA, to keep us from having to go bid it out?
I'll help
Get
you.
Joe Blow with Taco, would go in there and start tearing it out, next thing he tears up the whole liner and everything, that's one.
Well, there's
Ours is
no,
time for
I
ours
mean,
again.
there's no liner to it. I mean,
Well, we got a concrete, it's a concrete liner.
a swale, yeah, so you have a swale, but, I mean, I don't mind helping the HOAs, you know, myself going out and helping them find contractors and meeting with them, but the city can't expend funds for the maintenance. Those ponds are supposed to be maintained all of them.
How many are there?
A lot.
Really?
Every development has at least one, usually 2, 3, and 4 sometimes. They, I can't even think of the name of it.
What's that?
Yeah, Winstead Farms has 4.
Creekside has 2,
Yeah.
we have 1.
What about for, like, because the jump complaints as far as drainage, like how we helped plantation hills and that is
Yes, that's in the stormwater fund. So instead of putting it in both, I just put it all in stormwater fund. Yeah, we just have to make sure, so I just sat in on a class on drainage law, and it was actually taught by an in-past engineer, and he outlined kind of the parameters, sort of a refresher for, we just need to make sure that when we're using public funds, that it's for the good of the public. And so we don't need to be doing, you know, those were, so there was, you know, it was neighborhood-wide that we were doing drainage improvements. We just have to be really careful when going private property doing drainage projects, that they're for the good of a group and not just one or two. So, and the projects that we have kind of slated fall in line with that.
One more question on that, that drain from our retention pond goes down Evergreen, which is, goes past the phone company box, and that's usually stopped up all the time. You know, if you usually look at it, it's a mess.
The culvert,
The culvert, yeah, once the
Like a
culvert,
lemon road?
yeah, once it leaves our retention pond, it goes down that culvert, which goes down and goes up under Evergreen at the far end.
well, you just gotta tell me about it.
Yeah, I did some work on it last year, you put some stone and stuff in there, but it's still generally stopped up, holds water all year long. And,
Okay.
mosquito problem during the summer.
We have dumps, we have dumps that we.
We like Terry, just wait.
They just want shots too.
Yeah, just wait.
Yeah,
Especially if we haven't had a good freeze this year.
that's right,
It will
it'll be bad this year.
It hasn't been bad, already.
No, mosquitoes, if you don't have good freeze, the mosquitoes are horrendous.
Just wanted to, you need to look at it.
I'll send it.
And one more, we need to go on the side of town, you know, your gates down. I was back there with the grandkids over the weekend exploring. That place is a mess back there. Mattresses and, you know, there's two abandoned houses back there.
That's a good complaint.
Well, no, they're old sharecropper houses.
Oh, yeah.
But their kids are using them to do, for, you know, to do things that kids do out in the woods. I went by the door with the kids and it was,
Yeah, so that's something
You know where
that
they're at?
John has to stay on top of, as far as code compliance, because it's on private property, so we can't go on private property and pick up the, whatever's
well,
been.
no, but if it's abandoned,
Or the abandoned house, so we would just require the property owner to take it down, because it's a health and
have them come, I'll walk out there and show them where they're at. You can't see them unless you walk up the trail. There's two of them right next to each other. Been there ever since I've been there. It's been empty all these years, but they are all this, kids are hanging out in there, they're interested all on the walls. And,
Yeah. Okay, I'll refer that to John. Okay, so we're out of public works. Let's go, the next one would be street aid, so that's 15. And so the narrative, I think, got left out. I think there was an additional stormwater narrative, so I made copies. Do anyone want a copy of the narrative, or you just want me to run through it? the narrative that was submitted with the budget,
Pretty conservative, I separated on, last Wednesday, maybe?
yeah, so, yeah, the narratives,
In the official copy.
It was part of the- so it was every, department, you know, put together these narratives, and so I noticed today when I was going through it, that the street aid one was left out and there was an extra stormwater in it, so just to, so you guys have that. So street aid is our, account where we do our, paving and asphalt repair, so, the wages, there's 4 employees that are in this department, so those wages, reflect, some promotions, as I showed you in those, that new org chart. So going down, education and training, that's just, we periodically will send them to like flagger training, we just sent a few to that Impact, or, not Impact, UT provides through the TPAP program, things like that. The uniform, again, the uniform leads through UniFirst for the 4 employees. Let's see. Telephone, that's primarily, the public works director is the only one that has, a phone paid for by the city. Currently, we've kind of gotten away from giving every employee a phone since we increased employees in that department. So this phone is for the hotspots that we use for the tablets for the asset management work order system. So I didn't bring this up in the other ones, but the other professional services, like I said, that 6,000, so that is for the new asset management software that kind of split between the different funds. Those are kind of self-explanatory. Repair maintenance of vehicle, that's for our fleet. Traffic control lights, ours are pretty low maintenance, so that's for any maintenance that's done on our signals, we have 3. Repair maintenance of streets. So this is the line item that we do paving, as well as we have a patching contract for any patches that are larger than what we can manage with our hot box. This includes striping of roads and any guardrail repair. And if we were to do another pavement preservation project like we did across the street, then that would come out here. I did not have the one for this year, but for this year, this is based on our assessment that was done in 17. We would pay a portion of the remaining Stonebridge area. The preserve, you know, the BOC, I don't know if everyone's aware, but the BOC was approached by the preserve HOA because the surface never got put down in their development. They have private streets, but the surface never got put down in the security release a number of years ago. The developer has folded, and so they asked the city to do the final surface. And so the BOC voted on it, and so the preserve has asked, I think they only have like 3 homes left, and some of them are under construction. So they've asked that we include that in this budget. So originally I would have done all of Stonebridge, but since the preserve asked to have theirs paved this year, then I split Stonebridge kind of in half and then did the preserve with the remaining half. And then our contracted asphalt patching with Gibson, well, it's typically with Gibson, but you know, it's put out for public bid, which would go back out in June. There's around 60,000. We don't always use that. It just depends on how many large patches we have to do. So, for example, we're doing a big patch on Fletcher's Trace, right in front of kind of the townhomes, and I think that's Glen Burning, that we're going to have Gibson come in because we cannot, our hot box only holds 4 tons, and we can't do a great patch of that. So they'll come in and they'll do that big patch for us. So that's what's in that line item.
And how much are you expecting for preserve?
It is,
Did we cap it in that resolution to 80 or 100?
no, it was, I think I gave an estimate of almost 300,000, I think it was 200 and something like that. I've got 300,000 in the budget. They need a lot of patching, and so we've been trying to do some of the patching ourselves to try to reduce, because when we have a contractor patch, that drives the cost up substantially, so, we'll probably still go in and do some patching. I think the paving was around 200, just a little upwards of 200,000, and then the rest would be for the patching. Their neighborhood is in really bad shape, but, the resolution did not cap the amount that it would take for it. It did say that this was the one and only time that we would do this work in the neighborhood. And then the Stone Bridge, I've got 400,000 in the Stone Bridge, 300,000 in the preserve, and then the remainder would be for the patching contract. And if bids came in lower than I expected, I might could do some striping.
When is the reserve ready to be, it's ready to be done?
So we've roughly got $100,000 left in the solar budget money to be spent. So see, actual activity year to date, 1,101,000.
Yeah, well, I mean,
18-19 budget of.
right, so with the patching that we're doing right now, which is, and it'll probably get
That
pretty
will
close
bring
to
up to
that.
that.
Yeah, it'll probably be pretty close. I mean, it's difficult for me, you know, when I'm working with a paving budget, it's based on quantity. So I estimate the quantities, the contractor, I require them to provide me with tickets for asphalt and base and things like that, so that we only pay for what they put down. So there's always, you know, a little, I try to make it, you know, overestimate slightly so that we don't run into a problem with having to do change orders and things like that. So when you do a really large, like our last paving project was the 1.2 million, and so it's hard for me to hit that right on the head. So that's why you might see a little extra at the end of the year. Let's see, is there anything else? The tool, that's mainly, like shovels, rakes, saw blades, that's, the asphalt, the shovels and rakes that we use on the asphalt, patching have to be replaced fairly frequently. We can clean them a few times, but then, you know, every year we just don't have to replace those. And then the sign parts and supplies, so I bumped that up a little bit this year because I'm interested in putting at least one radar speed limit sign on Canada Road and possibly two, depending on how much they come in cost-wise. But so what I'm talking about is the kind that
Shows you how fast you're going.
well, the ones that I've seen, this was actually up north that I liked the best. So it had the speed limit. It didn't tell you how fast you were going, but if you were going the speed limit or under, then it was green. And if you went up over the speed limit, then it was like flashing red at you. But it was just flashing the speed limit. It wasn't telling you how fast you were going. It was just saying that you were going over the speed limit. I actually saw some that said like, "Thank you for not speeding" and things like that. So. Anyway, I think I get calls constantly about speeding on Canada Road, and I think, yeah. So I mean, that may be another place that we could put one of those. The county has been better about getting out there. I've kind of stayed on them about having enforcement out there, but I think these signs may be helpful.
How much is it?
I think the signs are, I think about $2,500 a piece. And that was just me pulling something up offline. We may could get a better price once I really get into it, but just to put a number out there.
I was trying to get information from Forrest about the ones John used, which are portable, and move them around. You've seen those, yeah, when you go over a certain amount, I think it has to be more than 5 over, otherwise everyone's getting flashed by something, but it's more than 5 over, I know that, and it flashes, and it just gets your attention. I don't know about pictures on display, but it gets your attention, but it's something you have to move. I think you develop patterns. Let's say if it's a problem here, you go, you move there, and it works for a little while, then people start speeding again, and you just start moving it. adjusting it where you need it.
Yeah,
That's-
yeah. I haven't looked
yeah.
at that, but that's definitely an option. The ones I was looking at were pole mounted.
Which on campus, that's always, it's
Yeah.
always gonna be something, so.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah, so, that's why that increased a little bit.
Makes sense.
And let's see. Gravel and sand and asphalt, that stayed the same. We did, when I kind of project out what I expect for us to spend this year, I think we're gonna be right in line with that, so I just kind of kept that the same. I don't know that we could actually, we stayed busy with that, so I don't think we could actually do any more than with the guys that we have. The machinery equipment rental, I bumped that up a little bit. Last year, when we did patching on Canada Road, we rented a signboard so that it had a flashing arrow all behind the truck, because people don't really respect when you have construction guys out there, so, I bumped that up a little bit for that reason. New capital light is, we only have one, trailer, and it's fairly old and pretty decrepit that we've been using for mowing, so this is for 2 new 20-foot mowing trailers, a 12-foot trailer for our roller that we bought used last year, our asphalt roller, and then, I think that's
Heavy duty, yeah.
yeah. Street lighting, that's just, what we pay them, we pay them a monthly fee that includes usage and maintenance. That's how they bill the street lighting. And then, I put in new capital building improvements, and I've split this between this fund and solid waste. But I'm proposing to build the guys a, maintenance building out back. So I think it's a 60 by 100 metal building, that they can do, repair equipment, we can store some equipment, we can store materials. If anybody's ever been out back and seen the sheds that we work out of, it's really, really sad. We've had theft out of some of them because they're difficult to secure, they leak. Any equipment maintenance that we do is in the gravel parking lot, we don't have a way to cover. This has been needed for a really long time, and we managed to try to get it in this budget without creating a deficit. So, like I said, half of it is here, half of it is in solid waste. I mean, solid waste has, the knuckle boom truck, we have, leaf vac and things like that. So, it's easy to justify that we do just as much maintenance on solid waste equipment as we do with our other equipment, so.
Kind of do junkyard behind us.
Yeah, we tried.
I know.
Okay. Are there any questions on street aid? Any more?
What is the current fund balance?
I think we used it last year. We looked at that. I think we used it last year to do paving, or some of it last year.
Looks like we are projected to end the year with a fund balance of $267,000.
All right, not to belabor the point, but do you mind clicking on the 750 cell, giving me a breakdown?
Yeah. Let me go back, so I'll make sure I'm not losing. 400,000 is Stonebridge paving, portion of Stonebridge. 300,000 is the preserve. And then, the remaining 50,000 is the, patching, contracted patching. On to sewer.
Speaking of, we know the tour of that place. That's waiting for the mud to quit dry up.
It's not muddy over there. This stuff's really interesting. It is.
Say we could
I didn't
have,
Good job.
Everybody lunch or anything?
Yeah, picnic.
Yeah,
That'd be a
why
wonderful
was it,
scene.
I'm going with
Come on.
That's real. This is good.
The weeds do
Nobody
well.
was talking about it. Okay, so, let's see. I did not change anything as far as, an old park in sewer. We have 4 guys. There is temporary employee wages, so what happened is we had kind of our wastewater operator. He's not the person that holds the certificate for the plant, but he was kind of the backup, and he also did all our lab work. He left the department. So, it's a very, very difficult position to fill because, there's state certifications that are required. So what we have done is actually we were able to get him to come back temporarily after he gets off work at Bartlett to come in and do our lab work for us. So that's what the temporary employee wages are, him coming in and doing lab work for us until one of the employees that we have on staff is working towards getting his certification. He's already taken a review class and he sits for the test, I think, in the next couple of months, as well as taking some of the lab classes. So he is working towards that position, but he's just not there yet. So instead of hiring in the person at the operator level, we hired in just a wastewater maintenance level 1 tech, and to allow the more seasoned employee the chance to work his way up to that position. I expect that he'll probably do that this year. So this temporary wages is exactly as it says, temporary until we can get somebody in that position. Let's see. Education and training, so they have, with their certifications, they have continuing ed training as well as the operator certification that this employee will be taking. So that's what that education and training line item is. They don't typically, other than that, they don't do much travel. They also have uniforms through UniFirst, so the uniform item reflects that lease. The publicity and dues, they pay in part of the APWA, as well as American Waterworks Association. Environmental protection, that's our TDEC, our state permit, here's the annual fee of that. Electric is for the treatment plant as well as with 18 pump stations, so that amount is for, that 150,000 is for electric for all of those facilities, as well as water and gas.
Does anybody want water?
no thanks.
Thank you, Dave.
Telephone, so telephone is not only, so we have telephone for the employees, an emergency line, as well as all of the 18 pump stations have modems. So we're on a SCADA system which remotely communicates with our dialer at the plant, and it calls out if we have any high-level alarms or anything like that, so it prevents us from having any overloads. So that is included in that telephone cost, is the charge for the data usage on those modems. Let's see. The trustee collection, that's MLGW collecting our sewer fees. Let's see. We also pay out of this, since this is an enterprise fund, it pays its own auditing, so, that amount is for the audit of the sewer fund. Let's see, architecture, engineering, landscaping, that is just if there's any type of study that we need to do. So this year, sort of at the direction of the board, we talked about maybe looking at our sewer rate, and so impasse offers us, has a sewer rate, they'll perform a sewer rate study for us, and so that's what this money is for. I've already contacted them about it and gotten a quote, and so that's kind of the direction we'll be going for that money. Let's see, other professional services. So that is partially the lab and partially the asset management software. Most of it being the lab, Lakeland lab, so we paid them to run, we can run some tests in our own lab, some tests have to be in a certified lab, and so that's for them. Let's see, repair and maintenance of vehicles, I think that stayed about the same, so we've got one truck that's gonna get new tires and of course oil changes and things like that. Let's see, travel and meals and entertainment, that goes along with those classes, they're held in Murfreesboro, so they have their week-long classes. Contracted service, so that is increased, and the reason for that, you can see in previous years, like in this level, it's actually 16-17 budget, we were running the sludge press, so that takes the sludge that's a byproduct of the plant process and dries it out, and then we dispose of it. So we have not been able to run that press because the water coming off of it was causing problems in the plant, but we've since installed a pump station, so it takes that water back to the lagoon. So we're going to start running the press again. So we're going to see an increase in disposal cost of that sludge. So that's the biggest jump there. We also have disposal off of our headworks facility. But we estimate probably about 45,000 of that is going to be disposal of sludge. And that just goes to the landfill. It's called a special waste. Let's see. Office supplies, that's, like I said, the office supplies, it also includes our background checks and hepatitis shots for our guys. Chemical, lab, medical supplies, that increased a little bit because we are purchasing a spectrophotometer, which is about $6,000 for the lab. We've slowly been trying to add this kind of specialized equipment as we've gotten some money over the years. It's too expensive to try to buy it all right off the bat. So additionally, there's other miscellaneous lab supplies, but that's the reason for the increase in that line item. Other equipment, parts and repair. So that is, that covers maintenance on all of our pumps, motors, valves, not just, equipment like you might think that goes with fleet. So that's any equipment at the plant or at the pump station. So that's a pretty significant line item. Let's see what else. Most everything's pretty much remained constant. Moving on to, so heavy equipment, we're getting to a point where we really need to get a combo truck, and so it's one of the big Vector trucks. We have a pump truck, it's getting fairly old and it doesn't have a lot of capacity to it, so usually if we have any major event, we have to contract with Insel Septic or something like that. We could not afford it in this budget, so Shane had said that in his previous municipality, they leased a combo truck, and it worked out pretty well for them. So we put in $50,000. The combo trucks are about $400,000 to purchase, and so he said he suggested $50,000. Let's look at a lease possibly. So that's why I put that in there. I'm going to look into that opportunity and see if that's something that we could do. Other improvements, so that is, that's kind of like our capital improvements in sewer. So typically throughout the year, we'll make a list of point repairs that are not emergencies but still need to be taken care of. So we'll bid those out. We'll also probably do another sludge removal project. Our lagoons, because we have not been able to run the press, have built up some sludge, so we may have to have a contractor come in and help us with a little bit more sludge removal. So that's what that line item includes. Light equipment, that is a new UV module for the treatment plant. I think there's 3 in line over there, and those are used for disinfection. So instead of, in the past, we've used chlorine when we built this new plant, we used UV. And this is a new module to replace one. The interceptor. Okay, so we have about, on the Clear Creek interceptor, this year, I expect to spend about $468,000 to finish the design, get the easements from the property owners, and bid it. The remaining amount is a proposed Oliver Creek interceptor. So, as you know, Memphis, well, I'm not sure if you know or not. So Memphis has given us the contract. So you knew the contract had expired. Memphis has provided us with a contract about a month ago, and the contract has a lot of kind of open-ended requirements for the municipalities. And they include flow monitoring and reporting to them very frequently. They include possible pre-treatment. They include us to adopt certain ordinances that they tell us that we need to adopt. It takes a lot of control away from us and puts it on them. And so I had, in anticipation of this, I had contracted with A2H back earlier last year and said, hey, what would it look like conceptually for us to put in a pump station? We have 2 locations where it crosses to Memphis. One of them is a major transfer. And so they did a conceptual design and actually made copies of the, and it actually looks like it's something that's feasible. And so the good thing about this is, one, if we were able to do this project, then we would have immediate customers, right? So this just kind of, I started to put together a PowerPoint and I just kind of printed it out for you guys. So that shows the service area of Stonebridge. So the green is what Memphis currently owns, maintains, and treats. We get no revenue from that. The smaller area, I think it's in blue, is what we get a portion. I think it's about 30% of the revenue. And then additionally, Bartlett has a fairly significant area that flows through Stonebridge. So the potential, if we were to move forward with this project, the potential for revenue is about to double what we bring in. So we currently have about 2,300 customers, and this would bring in almost, essentially the same amount. Bartlett is also very interested in contributing financially to this project because it frees up capacity on 64 for them. As you know, that Memphis has basically put a moratorium on development on 64, so this gives us our capacity back on 64 and the rights, as well as Bartlett has something to gain. So that's why they're interested in going in this with us. So I've just started looking at it, preliminarily. I still have to sit down with Bartlett. They gave me the numbers as far as what, how many accounts were flowing through. And then if we're interested in pursuing this, then I have put the design in for this budget if this is something that you guys are interested in moving forward with. But I think that the benefit of this is that we get revenue as soon as the thing is constructed, like immediate. And we have Bartlett interested in contributing to a significant portion of it.
I know that's not what we were talking about tonight, but how do our fees compare to what we're currently paying now? Are your numbers based on our current fees or their current fees?
It would be based on our current fees. So basically, I'm just saying, not taking a dollar amount into it, but basically saying the number of users. So we currently have a little over 2,000 users. We would look at adding approximately 2,000 users. Now, we're also adding more commercial, which is a higher rate, right? So the commercial that's on 64 does not pay us anything currently. So we would be getting the, right, everything in that area.
What's the margin on that? When you say revenue
What do you mean?
for the profit? Just cover cost or their profit for the city?
Well, so Memphis is going to they're gonna require us to obtain these assets as part of this contract.
Right.
So we're gonna be pushed to do that. My goal is to sit down with Memphis and say, hey, you know, this is our plan going forward. If, you know, I really don't wanna enter into a new contract with you because there's all these stipulations. I mean, it's really, you know, scary to me to look at what, they're kind of pushing back on us, and it's gonna cost us a lot more money. We probably have to have more people to maintain and monitor this stuff, and, you know, if they decided that our flows were more than they wanted to accept, they could have us try to put in, some kind of a holding tank to release it at off-peak times, which is kind of what they're proposing now. And we don't want that infrastructure on 64. No. So, another good thing is you know, so the interceptor, we don't have the capacity. We looked at putting the pump station in Stonebridge and putting the force main in to dump into Scotts Creek, but that really pushes our capacity on Scotts Creek. So another benefit is we put this the Oliver Creek interceptor in. That relieves some of Scotts Creek. You know, with all this new development, could we get to a point where we have to do something there? It relieves some of that because it moves everything on the west side of Canada would then go to Oliver Creek. So Plantation Hills, Woodbridge, and any new potential developments through there would go to that interceptor. We take 2 more pump stations offline. There's just a lot of added benefits. It would serve the Northfleet property, which is kind of been coming to us off and on, which is at the southwest corner of 70 in Canada, as well as the Jones property, the Lakeland Green property, which we've had some conversations with them recently about developing. So there's a couple of really large parcels that would then have sewer access that could potentially develop also. So in my opinion, it's a win-win. I mean, you know, Clear Creek is needed because we're at capacity, you know, but that is those users are already paying into it. And so, yes, we need to do that project, but this one is, you know, it's not gonna take us any time to pay the thing off, especially if we've got Bartlett paying a portion of it.
You know,
And
Yeah,
immediate
yeah.
revenue.
yeah.
Right.
Is
immediate
this the
revenue.
depreciated value of that system?
That's the depreciated value. Now, I have had Aaron, the staff engineer, we did a video inspection on those lines, and so we have come up with about $200,000 of repairs that need to be done on it.
To
So we
take
would
off of
deduct,
that.
yeah, we would deduct off of that.
Does this push out how long before the Clear Creek is needed?
I mean, my proposal would be, so we're looking at most likely financing Clear Creek, right? So my proposal would be, let's just lump it together, let's figure out what Bartlett's gonna contribute, lump it together and just do them at the same time. Under one,
Get it over with.
yeah.
Do you have any idea what Bartlett, I mean, it's probably
No.
negotiating. with
No,
it.
but, I mean, so I talked to Rick McClanahan, their city engineer, and he was very, very, very interested and said that it would, yeah, they're very interested. But we have not sat down, I need to schedule a meeting with them. I wanted to get this before you guys first, before I go much further, and see if it's something we want to continue to look at. It's, you know, not, you know, just a dead commitment, but
Can it be added to the in-test study? That way we can kind of see how it would affect our sewer rates and stuff.
yeah. Bartlett's supposed to be putting together, their GIS manager is putting together a map so that we know exactly, you know, the user. So I know it's one apartment complex, I think there's a commercial facility, and then most of Davies flows through there. So we need to get a feel for, you know, where the flows are, and see what, you know, they're in a probably a worse situation than we are on 64 development, because the substantial part of 64 goes through their city, and they're at a standstill. So in this line item, the interceptor line, I have included the design fees for the Oliver Creek interceptor as well, which are around $400,000 as well, we estimate. So I would like to go on and proceed with that design. So kind of where that puts us, that does have us drawing a little into fund balance. Do you remember how much that was, Tom?
Which one goes?
Yeah, we were drawing into for the design. Seems like it was around 350. 350 though. What was it? For sewer, yeah.
Repeat your question, I'm sorry.
On the, so the sewer fund, the expenditures versus revenue, what was the deficit there?
I think it's somewhere around 500,000, if I remember correctly. There's about 500,000.
Yeah,
There's approximately $10.6 million in sewer fund balance, or projected sewer fund balance at the end of this fiscal year.
but that's not cash.
No, that is not cash. It's just on the side fund balance. So, yeah.
But I just completely overlooked.
Say that,
No, I just.
say that again, it's not cash. What is it?
Unsigned,
Fund balance.
10.6.
$10.6 million is the projected amount. So when I say it's not cash, I'm essentially saying that because it is unassigned, does not necessarily mean that there is $10.6 million of cash in the bank. We can't go to the bank and just withdraw that full amount.
I think it's 2.5, around 2.5 million is what we have in fund balance in sewer. I was thinking it was around that. Maybe a little.
I don't have to have the money though.
I think the 10 included assets, like value of assets.
Oh, yeah, that's where we're at, yeah. So Skyward is showing 10.6. I think that sewer report that I generated, February, when we had our last,
Yeah.
last time we provided the sewer report, showed about 2.5.
Yeah, it's only 1.5.
I will track down what that discrepancy is.
So because the design of both, you know, was about 870, we had to dip into fund balance for about 500,000 to fund the design of both of those.
So because it is a enterprise fund, then that negative, that deficit budget is not seen on our general fund
No.
budget.
Right, it is not.
Okay.
It would only be on the sewer fund. Which likewise with financing would only be in the sewer fund. Right. Correct.
Wouldn't show.
Yeah, you've got 1.9 in income and 2.48 in expenditures, so that's where you get your 500.
Yeah, right, right.
I'm sinking fast.
I was like,
one more.
I was like,
Should have leaned back in this chair.
I was like 5 to 9, what I could
Like,
do all
oh
that
my
time.
God.
You said stormwater?
Stormwater, solid waste, these are quick.
Yeah, that's
We can do this, let's do it.
To be honest, also, that's service, we didn't talk about parks.
Parks time, I would recommend, so Kevin has an opportunity to
To
sell.
get everything
Let's do that at the work session, a regular work session, is that okay?
for parks
For parks.
and let him present that to us then, to include the things that you'd like,
Yeah,
you'd like to see.
just show some expenses.
Yeah.
Budget.
Agree with that, you all agree with that?
I just had a question about
About the parks?
the income on the capital was about 750,000 grants, but we showed spending about 1.25, so that means there's an actual $500,000 of our money in this budget.
Yes, so, no, yes and no. So if you look at,
There's the money from the house, which is about 200.
correct.
So
So
there's about 250 in this budget.
there's the revenue generated from the sale of the rental house, which was approximately $269,000, if I remember correctly. There was a budget amendment in last year that committed payment in lieu of parts was committed, and then there was a assigned amount as well. So those two amounts equate to approximately 500,000 and make up the difference between the amount that's being funded out of the total amount of that project. So there's no unassigned fund balance being used for the Parks Department. That is committed and assigned fund balance.
Okay, so stormwater, we get into that. This is, not much to this budget, so, the employee wages are the 25% of both construction inspectors. So most of the benefits and overtime and training and all that transfers over. Uniforms, that is all 25% of the inspectors. Environmental Protection Fund fee, that is our TDEC MS4 stormwater permit fee to the state. Other professional services is our asset management plus. We are required by the state for a permit to start doing testing, monthly testing of streams. So that's the lab to try to determine if the impairments are coming from the municipality. So that also includes the lab testing as well. Let's see. The capital projects are in here, so what we've got, let's see, 125, so we've got some drainage projects. One is on, well, two of them are actually in the Grove. One of them is on Maple Run, and the other one is on, I put Babbling Brook Cove in here, but it's not, it's the next one up, where they're having some issues with the inlets that were put in as part of the development, similar to Woodbridge and Oakwood, are not, because of the way the lots were built on, are not effective anymore. And so we're gonna, on both of those instances, we're gonna add an inlet. So we're gonna extend and add an additional yard inlet in both of those cases. Also in the preserve, where Heron's Ridge, there's a culvert that crosses from Heron's Ridge under Sea-Tick and dumps out right in the back of this person's house. Since that is city water, I guess, because it comes through our culvert, and it also is from the ditches that it's all goes down to a low point. We're going to redirect that water around and go down to the ditch within that subdivision. So those are the projects that we have out there for stormwater.
I was thinking, did you, I got an email about a meeting in the Grove, is that part of it?
Possibly,
Okay.
yeah.
I'll get
I've been talking to their HOA rep over the last year, really, about the projects, and so I told them that I was going to put them in the budget to be considered. The one in the Cove, it actually water builds up in the road, and so it's a safety issue. It does eventually drain out, but it takes a day or so. So it cools in the end of that cove. So those are the capital projects proposed here in the stormwater. That's pretty much it for stormwater. Solid waste is exciting because we're proposing to add a new service at no cost to the resident. Okay, solid waste.
Additional cost.
No.
Read my lips.
All right, solid waste.
Let me prove that.
Bad.
That was a good idea.
So solid waste is a portion of my salary, portions of the staff engineer, half of our community services rep who Ron answers the phone, and we have a operator position of that runs the medical building. I did not see my temporary employee wages in here. Where'd they go?
It's blank.
Okay, we're supposed to have temporary employee wages in there. We need to add that.
Split among the.
1,700 in temporary employee wages. And so what I'm proposing this year is to start a leaf collection program for residents.
Yay.
Cool.
1,700. So that will be, the way we're going to operate it, we will have 3 to 4 crews. We will have one full-time employee, and then we will have actually we'll have 4 crews. We'll have 1 full-time employee and then we'll have 2 temps. So the temps, we're proposing is 8 temps for 16 weeks, so we would perform the service for 4 months. And so that, the temporary employee wages of $1,700 should be added in there. Let's see, going on down.
Is that enough?
I was just saying, that sure doesn't sound like
They're not
that.
gonna get $13
Not at all. I know,
16 weeks times 8 times.
Please pay that.
yeah. Wait, let's see, hang on.
Hold on.
New
I
math.
like your
It's
math.
like,
I think the temporary wages are probably backed up and we're missing a 0 too.
on that $1,000 per yard mowing, no, that one's.
Yeah, that can't be right because I had $1,000 for the.
It's not, can't be right.
I was wondering this.
Cause I was going, what are you
I was gonna-
paying,
I was gonna
$5
ask that
a
later.
yard? Like,
I thought it was in there.
I asked you about it, didn't I?
Yeah, I
It's like, that cannot be right.
There you go. Volunteers.
The county chain gun ain't gonna take care of it.
I wonder if we could get.
You would want to.
No, we've done that
You would
before.
want to.
Yeah, that was, I remember
Is it
you talked
hard?
about that, it's not,
And I
yeah,
never see it.
Yeah. it's not as effective, it's.
I'll work up
It's
the
really not.
No, it's not.
Massive amount of money.
I'll work up the number.
It's the problem was the
And we'll fill it in.
supervision.
So it's 8 temps for 16 weeks is what
It
we're
seems-
proposing.
More work than it was.
Yeah, and they,
And we had a lot of theft, a lot of theft. After hours theft.
Because they
Scoping
scoped
it
it
out
out
from
and
the
called
back.
people.
familiarity.
Including the gas card, so they would take the gas card out of the vehicles and they would watch when employees would put the pin in, and so we had theft on the gas card too.
That's just provided them with some great opportunities.
Okay, I'll work on the temporary employee wage number, just, I don't know what I was thinking there.
Yeah, and go back to that where the grass cutting in the parks,
yeah,
is
yeah.
that can't be right.
Thank you.
In the third world, they could. That's fixable. That's
Smart
not-
lawnmower.
I wonder if I did it per month instead of per week. I bet that's what I did. I bet I
Yeah.
calculated the rate and then just multiplied
Per
it
week.
times the 4 months or the, instead of the.
I see.
I'm trying to think of what I did wrong.
Are
'Cause-
those remote control vacuum cleaners?
Right, yeah, same thing, lawnmower, same
I
thing.
knew they had remote, they had these mowers that do their own thing.
Really?
Yeah,
Are you kidding?
but they're not, I mean, it's gonna be another 5-10 years before it actually.
Does a good job.
Yeah, it's too many variables.
Yeah, right? Just
Too many variables. Right now, it's too risky. Start running over people.
Sweet
Well,
tea
people
and
want
blades.
cutting off
What is
legs.
the current solid waste fund balance?
It was like close to $1 million.
Because you've got a negative 500 there too.
Correct. I think we had it right at almost $1 million. That's a,
That sounds right.
What was your capital light here? I know where your building camp was, the 225, what was that?
light equipment, that's for the leaf bags. So we're buying 3. We have 1 and we're buying 3 leaf bags.
I was wondering about that too. You said 4 crews. I was thinking.
Yeah, so we got the 1 and then we bought 3 more, and then the capital outlay vehicles are 3 trucks. So the trucks we're looking at purchasing are actually, 2 of them are swap bodies, so, it's not that funny. So you can buy separate, sort of the back end piece, so you can have dump beds, you can have, flat beds, you can have a typical, regular bed of a truck, there's a variety of things, and so a lot of municipalities have started going to these because they're so versatile. So 2 of the trucks that we'll purchase will be squat bodies, and we can purchase the different types of beds depending, going forward, depending on how we want to use them. So,
Are there any additional employees to do this? Nothing?
no, just the temporary ones.
Just a temporary. So,
It's only like 4 months.
after the capital expenditures of about 470,000 or so. The reason why I say that is because after you spend this 500, you're not gonna be able to run that year over year for more than 2 years. So what, do do you see anything ongoing after this year? I hate to add the service and have to take.
Like to, as far as increasing the operating cost, no. If we continue to be able to, use the temporary employees, I mean, I think that's, we can take, 4 guys from our crew that would normally be doing, I mean, the thing is, we're already out, vacuuming up leaves in a lot of these neighborhoods anyway, out of the streets to keep the storm drains clear. So, yes, it is additional work and we can't do it with one leaf vac. I mean, that's, why we ever tried to do that in the past, I don't know. But I think with 4, it's definitely manageable and it's a service that we have heard a large outcry from residents to have. Bartlett has it, it's fantastic. I lived in Bartlett for a little while and it was great to have that. And then hopefully also it'll decrease all this bagged leaves that we're having issues with contractors picking up. So the contractor will still pick up bagged leaves, but if someone just wants to blow them to the curb, we're already out there, we'll have to just, to go dispose of them more often, but we can still handle it. So, no, I don't, as long as we keep, the temporary employees, I mean, we're only gonna keep them for the 4 months that we would perform the service, so, no. Another thing that changed in this fund, kind of dramatically, so with our new contract with Team Waste, so one of the things, we've locked in our pricing for 5 years. So we can say that we know that we're good at this rate for at least 5 years, right? Because of the pricing we got. But, so disposal is not included. So you'll see that other contracted service, that one rose dramatically. So I kind of split out disposal, and that includes disposal of our bulk waste, household trash, recycling, and then if we dispose of the leaves, or we could always compost them out inside. We've done that before too, maybe a mixture of that. So you'll notice that those numbers have changed. So the contracted service has gone down because that's only paid to Team Waste. The other contracted services have increased because that is our disposal costs through those various entities. That's the major things that have happened in solid waste.
I have a thought. So the guys that are, let's say they're not mowing, and it's the cold time season, they're usually taking up trash, right? Is that kind of where they're going?
We pick up trash every day.
Well, I'm just thinking the same guys that would mow, because they're doing that 4 or 5 days a week. Where do they go during the cold months? Are they being
They would be the
rotated
ones
to-
helping with leaf cleanup. So
That's-
they
that's what I'm
clean out
wondering.
culverts, they clean out
Yeah.
ditches. They're on these leaf crews, I mean, we're pretty much have somebody out every week cleaning up the streets anyway to keep, like some of the neighborhoods that have more mature trees, like Lakeland Estates and Stonebridge and those areas, I mean, we have to go out frequently and clean those streets up. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I grew up in Midtown. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, so,
Trees everywhere.
like I said, we're already out there, and it's really bad for us. So we have some residents that will blow them out in the street, and we have to tell them, well, you're not really supposed to do that because we're not running the leaf program. But then on the other hand, my public works guys want to, provide good service, so they're, feel kind of bad even telling them that. They just want to get, they're out there, they want to get it. So I think, this is a great service that we can provide at no additional cost. They're able to afford that, at least for the next 5 years.
All right, so Josh, you asked what is the fund balance with the solid waste? It's projected to end the year at $940,000. We asked the fund balance of sewer. So the fund balance of sewer is the $10 million number. That $2.5-ish million number we're kicking around, that's the cash balance of the sewer department. So fund balance is $10 million, that obviously assumes we have some form of assets. Cash that we can withdraw today is $2.5 million. And then the last point of clarification, you asked about the part of the $1.26 million athletic complex. It's a $485,000 assigned fund balance from the payment in lieu of parts line item. It's a committed fund balance. $250-ish thousand dollars for rental house, and then there's a $500,000 grant. And that comprises the cost of that project.
But we haven't gotten that grant yet.
I think we've been awarded it.
Yeah, we've been awarded
We've been awarded the
500,000.
grant.
We haven't actually
No.
received it, physically received it yet.
It's a reimbursement also.
Right, yes. And they're having to now do a study on,
Archaeological.
an archaeological study, they're having to do.
How do they find the ball out there?
They're looking, yep,
What
they're,
they find?
well, they
Well,
haven't
they
found
haven't started
anything.
it
Oh,
yet.
they
So
are.
that, and then they're having to do a water, hydraulic assessment,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
there are lots of little roadblocks along the way before.
Yeah.
that.
Process.
Yeah, anything federal that's got any federal funds or state funds in it, you have to go through what's called a NEPA process, which is the environmental, and all the other agencies, historical, SHPO, the historical agencies, the Indian tribes, so you send out all these letters, and then they respond back and say whether or not they want you to conduct additional studies.
Throw a bunch of chicken
And I
bones on
think
the side.
The biggest,
Chicken
yeah,
bones.
They give you a timeline
Kevin's doing the project, what do you mean, timeline on getting started?
as far as getting those things back to the code, we can get it.
He just, Kevin's managing it, and I've kind of helped him through it. He just, I think, got Berkeley High on board to do those studies. I don't remember what their timeline was on.
We just
Maybe a
found
couple
out that
months
it was
or
gonna
something.
have to be done, like less than a month ago.
Yeah, yeah. And so, yeah.
It was a
Any-
surprise.
Any
It's like,
reason,
Look here.
any, go ahead, sorry. Any reason that particular site, or is that some kind of, is that something we should just go ahead and anticipate going forward with any kind of groundbreaking?
Well,
Is there something
so
special about that?
the hydrologic determination is required because, one, we know there's wetlands on the site and I think in the stream. So they will determine, they'll like delineate where those wetlands are and what the quality of the wetlands are. The archaeological survey, they said it was just because it had never been disturbed or it's been a long time since it's been disturbed. So it's a
Well, that's lot of
It's a
places.
preliminary level, it's not a
And
real
it's-
detailed.
That's why I was saying, why don't we just anticipate it with other things, because there's a lot of areas that
We
just.
never know, so
Yeah.
like on a lot of the road projects, we have to do bat studies now, because that's a certain type of bat is endangered, and so if they find bats within the corridor, then you have to make, mitigation for these bats.
So this opportunity or whatever is pending, and the study being part of the fiscal year's budget that starts July 1st, do we want to, or consider amending the sewer fund to be able to get the sewer study now, so we can understand how possible that impacts us?
You know about environmental?
It's on the MTS thing that's gonna look
Oh.
at our systems and kind of give us an idea, kind of
Yeah.
help us figure out the feasibility.
Yeah. I can, there's some information that I've got to get from Kyle to send to them, and then I think they're ready to get started as soon as we can. I'll have to look and see what we've got in this budget, but I'm not sure if I've used those monies from, yeah, it was 3,000 or 4,000, I think, it was close to 4.
I just know that our citizens want to know that sewer, it'd be nice to be able to say, this is a study, we've got it backed up,
Yeah.
Net service fund, you want to go through that now or at the work session?
Yeah,
I'll put my way.
No, we can do the
I can
work
pull it back up.
wherever you like.
session.
Yep.
Oh, I'll tell you.
It's brief.
What is it? Is it
Like
part of
a
your staff?
It's on my page.
17, turn right to it.
While you are digging, Emily, this is all new, or is this tapping into existing,
So the red is
And
the
that's what
forced,
kind of
the
dodge
forced main.
the line in Bartlett?
Well, so that is conceptual, so all they did is they followed, the property line.
Limits,
So,
yeah.
we would probably not make all those turns
We
like
would-
that, but
Do they ever venture into other cities just for those things, or they don't do that? Okay.
we
That
could
would
get
be-
the easement. Well, we will have to get the easement from Bartlett when we
Yeah.
cross 40.
Right, I was wondering about
And
that.
they've already said before, when I was first even looking at this, I said, if we were to run a force main on your side of Davies, would you give us an easement for it, of course?
So this is basically forcing our hand.
Yes, they have.
We knew that it was coming for many years.
I mean, they'd be glad for us to stay
Sign
on.
their agreement.
Yeah, because I mean,
Yeah.
it even has stuff about, we would have to contribute to their, any capital projects that they, and I know they've got some big capital
Yeah.
going on, and it's just like, I don't even know how to predict what that cost is gonna look like.
And I think it's all about more than one person,
Horrible.
but that depreciated value should be much lower.
Yeah,
So we need to look at maybe even investigating more ways of decreasing the amount of cash we're gonna pay for that system,
Well,
especially as
yeah.
old as it is.
yeah, I'm almost interested in seeing if we can negotiate like, you know, we're getting off your system, that's 20% less flow over into your system. Why is
Wipe
this just
it
a
out.
wash?
Yeah.
You know, so we're helping them out
So
too.
I thought that was where it was
I did
over a
too,
year
with the
ago.
zero.
Sort of as an exchange
It shall be
for
kind of
our
resident,
assets.
we've already paid for it, so.
Yeah.
They just-
Well,
they
yeah, I
just
mean,
want-
it's
they
just
want
put
the
in by
money.
the developer, so, and then they will
They just want the money.
They're just, so they're just trying to see what we would pay.
I think so.
I mean,
just
they've
gotta-
charged,
we
every
just have to-
municipality, they have charged, you know, for their assets. So Bartlett, Germantown, and
They already paid.
Carterville have already paid.
Dang, they didn't have.
So that's historical. It's hard to get away from,
Yeah.
once they
But-
set precedents.
Right, but we are offering them capacity in their line that they're otherwise gonna have to do some major capital. You know, they're not developing on Fletcher Creek Interceptor either. So, you know, we're giving them some capacity, so maybe in exchange for the capacity,
We get a
give us
further
the
break.
line. Yeah,
I think we can get it much lower.
yeah. I mean, I think we have some leverage, because I think it's gonna, I haven't mentioned to them yet about us doing this. I've kind of just been holding it to myself until we do sit down finally and meet with them. But I think they're gonna be pretty pleased that they'll get that capacity back. It's one less
Especially
thing that
with
they
the
have.
moratorium.
Check their liability.
Right.
Yes, we did.
Fix it.
So, yeah, once I started looking into that, I thought, man, this is really, like, could be a really great project. It's really great.
We just borrow the money, do both at once and.
Well, that's what I would, yeah. And so, yeah, and depending on how much Bartlett would contribute, I mean, he said significant. So he's thinking in the millions of dollars, I would assume. He knows what it costs to do these. It would be a big, and I think they also are able to take one of the pump stations offline, so it's a huge win for them. And they don't have any way to get off of Memphis sewer at all. They've got like 6 connections, and some of them are pretty major. So this is really their only opportunity to regain some of the capacity back.
So those
Why they
people
would.
would pay their sewer fees.
Us. And that's not uncommon, so, in Carterville, they have some sewer customers that are outside of the Carterville city limits. And they just pay in.
There are large homes over there. I'm sorry. I'm just,
Dollar signs.
well, I mean, you gotta look at that when you have the opportunity to look at that.
Yeah.
Well, in an apartment complex with, I don't know how many units.
All right, let's get
through this.
Get through this debt service fund.
Cha-ching.
Yep.
Close this
You
down.
know, they're drilling over there with the dollar
Thank you.
signs.
No, but it does make so much more sense than to be forced to then buy something that you're not gonna have any
No,
chance of
I-
recovering the cash that you've spent.
I get it, I get it.
It
And
was
to
like,
double the revenue pretty much immediately,
I like that part
that's
too.
fantastic. Like that,
The immediate part.
yeah. I mean, that, so once we pay the debt off, I mean, that gives us an easy opportunity to reduce our rates for our citizens.
Yeah.
it's so funny, I think it was 07 or 08, I was having a conversation with Mayor Carmichael, and he was talking about running for office or something, and I said, man, I don't want to sit there and talk about sewer for 3 hours, I'm glad you are. Here we
Here you
are.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, this is a brief. Debt service fund obviously is funded through general fund revenue, so that's the major revenue line item that you see at the top. There is some minor revenue coming in from interest earned in various debt service related accounts. That's pretty minimal. So the 2004 TMBF loan and the 2008 TMBF loan are both variable rate, what am I trying to say here?
Interest.
Thank you. Yes, variable rate interest loans. So we would expect that in an increasing interest rate environment that their associated interest rates would increase. I've budgeted, I believe it's 2%. Last year we budgeted 1% for their interest rates. So that's the primary difference that you may see there. These principal amounts that you see in the first two rows, those are based off an estimated repayment schedule provided to us by the bond fund. Obviously, I think those are fine, actually. The point I was gonna make is about the variable rate interest. So we can skip those two line items. The TLDA Beverly Rivera loan, I think that is complete. And we would expect some principal to be repaid starting this year. So that's what you'll see in that row.
Go ahead.
Shelby County Schools, that's a settlement related to,
The buildings.
Buying the elementary.
and that is a continuous amount over the course of the settlement, and that's the amount that you see in that particular row. The debt service associated with the 2015 capital outlay note is represented in the next line item, and then you see all the interest expenses related to
All the above.
correct. So the reason that the interest expense is a little lower, so like for example with the TMBF loan here, you'll see $8,000 as opposed to $10,000, even though I said I budgeted more. That's because the amount of the loan outstanding is less, so the interest being accrued is less. And then the rest of the interest expense, I just pulled these from schedules that were provided to us by either the loan providers or in the case of the note, the financial advisor. And then loan fees, so we pay the bond fund for basically managing the loan through the TMBF for the 2004 and 2008 loans. So those are the two fees that you see right there. There's a lower fee associated with the TLDA note as well. And then, of course, one for the note, the 2015 note. I think that particular loan fee, I believe, is a bank charge and not an actual loan fee. There's no loan fee associated with that note. I think that's a bank charge. But that's it. Pretty straightforward. Any questions? Okay, obviously, any increases in debt, we would have to fund out of the general fund as well, so just keep that in mind. But this is it as of right now.
When you said the projected current fiscal year and payoff for
Sorry.
we should send out the principal balance based on current, projected in the current fiscal year.
Yes, so you want like principal balance for, principal amount for each fund, and then the amount, you want the amortization schedule essentially?
Yeah, that'd be great. Just corresponding with what you have.
Did we ask one right there, or did we ask anything? 902.
Oh, wow.
You did good.
We have one, but I think it's a few months old as well.
No, it's not like the time we finished, it's 9:02.
Oh, awesome.
We're in
We
overtime.
have to move to adjourn.
But we did have time to have a little snack and everything.
Do you have a motion, we adjourn?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Second?
Yes.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed, no?
Thank you very much for your time. I think we got a lot accomplished.
Oh, my God.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for doing the snacks.
Yes, thank
That
you.
was Cammy, all Cammy, so
Yeah,
here.
I volunteered to bring them and I'm
Yeah.
glad they just do that.
This is a big help.
Oh, yeah. Going through it line by line is always so.
Well, we learned about this stuff.
Right.
So
got questions, Scott.
Did the roll call.
I will, I'll revise this so that colleagues are appropriately referenced, but the then change the last word directed to, let me put it back up. But you should not substantively change unless you're allowed.
Help yourself with food, you drink.
Yeah, I might taste myself. Not hungry enough. I know what they.
That's what they were supposed to for, so maybe we're together.
So much better.
Yeah. And I get it, you don't wanna come back and say, sorry, but we're 15 grand over, you know, that is.
They do.
Page numbers.
Change how you want to reference, you know, what our information is. So it does change, but it's probably not gonna change.
Starting on page 11, a few line items in the senior center have changed. A few line items in the IH clubhouse on page 12. And a few line items on page 13. They're relatively
Yeah, it's literally like 2 doors behind from here. Because I was in the single walking behind you. So that same strip.
in the future, I'll distribute these first names.
No, I wasn't able to get my house. I came with you. Okay. All right.
Same thing, yeah.
I got that copy.
I can pull it up on my iPad and give you my iPad if you want. But you'll have to, and they'll.
You the big cheese. Thank you for the little
Oh, you
cheese.
got one, okay, good.
Yeah.
Good, good.
Putting this right here, so.
See who else got this back, somebody's software stuff.
Yes, about, yes.
Sorry.
So Deborah said we did the college order and then we
Oh, yeah.
from there.
Want to do that, Emily? I'll just wait.
Well, Mayor, do you want to call the meeting?
Yeah, I'll officially call the workshop to order. If you would, just go ahead and call roll.
Okay. Mayor Cunningham,
Here.
Vice Mayor Roman,
Here.
Commissioner Dial. Here. Commissioner Gonzalez,
Here.
Commissioner Wright.
Here.
The person only items discussion on fiscal year 2019-2020 budget.
All right, if I could kind of make some brief comments about just the meeting itself and the workshop itself and how I kind of foresee this playing out, if you will. I certainly appreciate all of your time. I know we all have a lot of things on our plates, and I appreciate you taking the time to kind of sit with us. And I think this is a great way to kind of walk through this document and get feedback from you. I think we're early enough in the process where we can take your feedback and kind of go back and make those changes. We certainly want this budget to reflect your priorities, and it's not our document, it's your document. So the reason for the meeting today is to see what your priorities are, start to get a feel for your priorities, and make sure that we budget accordingly based on your feedback and based on your priorities moving forward. So certainly appreciate all the efforts of staff, especially Kyle, and kind of working through these documents. Kyle, as was Forrest, was kind of thrown into the fire very quickly. Didn't have a lot of time to get their legs underneath them, but I think both have done an outstanding job in their respective areas. And as Kyle has worked his way through the budget and the process that we have, I think he's done a great job, and certainly appreciate his professionalism and how he handles himself and just the amount of work that he's poured into this document. So thank you very much. So today, again, you'll hear from respective department heads as they'll come talk about their respective areas, how I see this happening, and again, this is your meeting, this is your document, so you can tell me something differently, but I would like to do this by department. That way, departments can present, and then they can go off and maybe enjoy this beautiful evening, so they don't have to sit through the whole session with everyone. That's kind of how I would foresee this working, and then you can tell me again if you would prefer a different way. So I guess Kyle and I will be keeping notes of things that you would like to see us either reevaluate, get you further numbers on. We also both have pulled up on our computers Skyward, which is our kind of our clearinghouse for purchase orders, and so each of these line items has a number associated with it. So we can, if you're interested in to know, well, what's involved with engine, well, that's a revenue item, but like the street budget, what's all involved with subscription and dues and that line item. So we can pull that up very quickly on our computers and give you real world information on what is within that particular line item. So always feel free to, if you need any more information, we'd like to get that question answered tonight versus kind of getting back with you. So if we can do that tonight, we by all means would love to do that for you, so you can get clear in your mind what's involved in these individual line items and help you make effective decisions. So this is a very informal meeting. Obviously, feel free to get up at any point, go to the restroom, go grab a sandwich, a drink, just stand up and stretch your legs at any point. We'll stop as often as you would like to and take a pause if you want. But I would like to have Josh Thompson come up, our GIS director, first. Josh is going to go first, and then Forrest. Those two folks probably have maybe the lightest budgets that we can work through, and then obviously Emily will take quite a bit of time working through her budgets. But so we'll start with Josh and GIS, which would start on page 10.
so you'll see there's not a lot of change, there's not a lot of items to begin with, there's not a lot of change from last year, so. We did supply the narrative, but I'm always eager to answer any questions you guys may have.
Can I just interject for 1 second? Some global comments that may be helpful real quick as we look at this. If you look at page 14, you'll see basically our estimated surplus or deficit. This is probably the number that you guys are most interested in at the outset. We are assuming right now a surplus being our operating revenues are greater than our operating expenses in the amount of $495. That number obviously would be an addition to fund balance. This, which is in estimated unassigned beginning fund balance is right under that $495 line item. That's the amount of money that we would expect to have based on our estimated beginning fund balance for this fiscal year, plus obviously the deficit that we budgeted last year. So to the extent that that deficit will roll off with the removal of the fire department, that number, that $6,502,000 number, the ending estimated unassigned fund balance for fiscal year 2018 will be higher. But obviously, we did vote to remove that, but it hasn't been reflected in the budget as of yet.
So we'll do that as a budget amendment, start that process at the next meeting, at first reading, to remove that number out of the budget. So that, as Kyle was saying, so that'll reflect a higher ending fund balance than the 2018-19 budget.
Right, so I say all that to say, don't get caught up on the $6,502,000 number. That's just our working number as of right now, and that will change in the near future. So anyways, estimate that $495 of surplus that will roll into our fund balance, whatever that number will be, at the conclusion of this fiscal year. So right now, we are operating, obviously, with the surplus. Any expenditures that we increase today will reduce or eliminate that surplus. Obviously, any additional revenues that we can somehow drum up will increase that surplus. But anyway, I figured you guys want to know that before we kind of delve into the details. So sorry, Josh, I'll slow you down. So would it be helpful for us to just go line item by line item, or?
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll take the first couple if you don't mind. So the first couple line items, as you can see in most of these fund reports or segment reports, we'll call them, are going to be related to salaries and salary-related benefits. So that's going to be things like medical insurance, dental insurance, FICA, all that good stuff. So you'll see, obviously, we have a salary line item. FICA is your Social Security. As you know, employers are required to pay a portion. Employees are required to pay a portion. The employee portion obviously wouldn't show up in this budget, but the employees pay that through their checks, the deductions through their checks. The insurance line item, the dental health and life line item, that number is expected to go up this year globally, and that's of course because health insurance is getting more expensive. We expect somewhere in the neighborhood of a 17% increase in our premiums for health insurance. It's, I think that 17% is final. It is unclear whether or not the health trust, which is the city of Lakeland is self-funded with a group of other municipalities in the area. It's unclear right now whether or not the health trust will have to ask the city for more money. That 17% hopefully will reduce the amount of money that the health trust may or may not be requesting at some point in the near future. We expect to have that number, if there is a number by May 1st, And so if there is an amount that we would request from y'all, we come to y'all with a budget amendment for approval. To the extent that the budget amendment was not approved, I don't know exactly how that would impact the trust, except it may make it difficult for the trust to continue operating. But I don't know what that number may be just yet.
Have they talked at all about going back to insurance because of maybe the cost not being what they expected them to be?
No, they have not. The reason why we have not is because we do not necessarily feel, I sit on the health trust board, so I speak on a bunch of these topics. I don't think we feel that some other form of insurance will be less expensive. I think we feel that the self-funding mechanism that we have right now is fair and equitable given all the options available to us. The problem, or maybe it's not a problem, but the specific circumstance that we're running into is that we have higher claims than expected. Obviously, if you're trying to project those things, it's really hard to do so over any number of months. And this just happens to be one of those years where we have a high number of claims. So we're dealing with that. We're trying to make sure that the trust remains solvent in the long term. So we're trying to make sure that we take judicious and appropriate steps to make sure that it's funded appropriately. To my knowledge, there's been no serious conversations about switching financing mechanisms, moving towards a quote-unquote traditional insurance provider.
You all know and understand who's included in the trust, all the players. You know that information. Do you want to know that information?
In the following municipality, the school and the city.
Yeah, you want to just talk about that first?
So there are 8 or 9 member organizations in the trust. Right now it's the Lakeland School System, the City of Lakeland, Carterville City, Town of Carterville Schools, Town of Carterville, Bartlett City Schools, City of Bartlett, Germantown, yes, sorry. Germantown is in there as well.
Hard to forget.
And Arlington wasn't in there for a while, but they're not in there anymore. So it's just those, I think that's 8, 9 organizations. I think that's right. But yeah, so everybody in there, the city has the smallest population of people. Obviously, we don't have a lot of employees, and the employees that we do have don't have super large families, so we don't have a large exposure. So if there was a cash call required, we expect that amount would be relatively minimal to the city, but still may be some amount. We'll have a better understanding of what that amount will be March 1st or May 1st.
So essentially, with more members, it'd be better for each county, right?
Theoretically, if we had more members who didn't go to the doctor as much.
Well, that'd be great, obviously.
But of course, we don't want to discourage people from going to the doctor, because if you say, go to the doctor today and I have cancer, and they catch that early, early preventative medicine is much cheaper than, whatever they'd have to do to combat the cancer long term. So, it's just one of those unfortunate realities where we have a, relatively seasoned population, and seasoned populations tend to utilize doctors more often. There's really no getting around it. Okay, so the entire employee retirement plan, the next line item. The employee retirement plan, I just went to a Retire Ready workshop through Empower, which provides our particular 401k retirement benefit at the city. They were supposed to have rates ready for us. Unfortunately, they did not, because we have a kind of a weird system where the school system has the 401k, plus it offers some other retirement benefits that the city does not, so they have to do kind of like a blended yield, and that blended yield tends to be a little more complicated for actuaries. So they said that they would have that number ready for us and sent to us in the near future. Right now, I've just assumed, I think, 2% growth, which is kind of conservative. I wouldn't expect it to be super high, but I'm not an actuary, so I can't tell you what that number would be. Workman's compensation, this is just one item where you would assume if someone was to be injured on the job, obviously we want to make sure they are taken care of. And that is what that line item is used for. That's just a formula based on a number given to us by the insurance guys. So that line item hasn't really changed. Most of these line items will remain pretty similar to last year with the exception of obviously the insurance line item because of the increase in health insurance and the increase in dental insurance, and salaries line item, which we assume a 2% cost of living increase. So that's the major difference. And then other than that, the rest of these are Josh specific.
So most of these are self-explanatory, but so the next item is education and training, and I have that number set for focused training courses. It could be anywhere from $500 to $1,000 plus professional certification renewal. So that actually brings the total to like $1,400. I'm just gonna roll through these. Obviously, if you have questions, I'll stop. The membership tuition line item is next. That's for the local GIS membership and the state GIS membership. The next item is the data processing services. That name is a little generic, but basically it's the software. So it's for our GIS software maintenance contracts. It is for an aerial photography and data acquisition project that we joined in with several other agencies in the county. And it's this year includes a citizen engagement solution. The next item is other professional services. This basically is for someone to come out and service our plotter, our large format printer plotter if necessary. We also use that to purchase our GIS online credits. Those are tokens that we use for storage of our website data, our web portal data. The next item is the travel. That number is set based on the national conference. In the past, it ran somewhere around $2,500, $2,600. I don't go every year. Typically, I go every other year. Sometimes I skip 2 or 3 years in between, but that's typically the cost to get out there and back. And so then the next item is meals and entertainment. That's only associated with the conference travel. And operating supplies just consist of ink, print heads, and paper for the large format plotter.
Josh, we don't see very much. Can you tell us what GIS does? I know it's obviously at a very high level, but can you tell me kind of like the goal of your operation is?
So the goal of GIS is it's database management with a spatial component. So you've got spatial data. A great example, our zoning districts, our streets, actually the county keeps up with the parcels, but we get a subset of that we maintain ourselves. Any assets, anything, land use plans, anything like that. The goal of GIS is to be more productive and efficient overall. We provide this data for planning purposes, for engineering purposes. A great example that we use a lot are contours. So I mentioned in our data processing services, we joined in a data acquisition project with the county. One of those deliverables was LiDAR data. We will take that LiDAR data and produce contours for the entire city. So when a developer, or even if we have a project on the site, we need to see drainage, we need to see elevation, which is pretty constant. On a project, you always need to see that. To pay for someone to go out and survey that versus the cost that we, I guess our cost to get that data and produce this is, the difference is pretty, I don't have the numbers, but there's a big difference in what it would cost to go out and survey that stuff as opposed to already having this data in-house. So we provide it as a means for analysis, as a means for planning, and pretty much anything else. So anything that we use in the asset management, that all consumes GIS data. Try to think of any other uses.
You said there was a citizen engagement.
Yeah.
What is
Yes.
that?
So are you guys familiar with like C-Click Fix? Basically, so our idea is it's a portal for citizens to contact us, to notify us of there might be a pothole, or there might be a tree down across the road, or, you know, their neighbors, I don't know, I'm trying to think of reasons that are not, you know, maybe your neighbor is playing loud music all night, you know, in the middle of the night, you probably call the sheriff or something like that, but it's a means for communication, direct communication for the citizens back to us, so that we can hopefully streamline workflows and get to issues quicker. In the past, we've used, you know, the typical phone call, email system, and there are times where, you know, we feel like we could be more efficient with some of this, we could get to some of this quicker. So that's the idea behind the citizen engagement.
What is the best way to implement that? I mean, like, is it city email or is there
So it would be just a web-facing form,
Yeah.
really, that we would customize for whatever we feel that we would like to push out there. And there are more uses, this is the primary use. I believe there's more uses for it that we could investigate. But the primary uses for it would be a public-facing form for them to email in concerns that they witness. Like I said, again, it could be graffiti, it could be a tree down, it could be, you know, anything. The idea is for us to communicate back and forth with them with progress, status update, things like that, so that they have direct communication. Plus, it also comes with executive dashboards where Shane or Emily or all department heads can see exactly, you know, how many incidents are occurring with it that pull from my department. You know, Emily would probably be interested in potholes and graffiti and things that affect public works and things like that. I'm sure Shane would be interested in all of it, but that's sort of the idea. Did that help at all?
That's great.
Okay. C-Click Fix is one of the vendors that we've looked at. They're probably one that you're probably most familiar with if you're familiar with any of those.
Yeah, the community I just came from, we just purchased that system. And again, Josh is right on, where if you're out walking your dog, or you see graffiti on something, or you see something, you can snap a picture with your phone. You can send it in anonymously, you don't have to associate your name with it, and it goes to the department that it needs to go to, instead of going to this generic City of Lakeland email. It goes directly to Public Works or Planning or what have you, and it keeps us accountable, because we have to say, we've acknowledged we've acknowledged receipt of this, and then we provide updates. You know, we've addressed this, and this is how we did it. So it's from a tracking standpoint, it's a very, very useful tool. But Josh, again, will work very closely with Emily and Forrest, providing resources to them. You know, we have an ongoing map that we have that talks about pending and approved projects that we're constantly adding to and updating. So folks can go to our website and see, you know, graphically on the City of Lakeland's map, they can see what are those pending projects, or what is this going to look like, how many lots have been approved in this housing development. So Josh does a very good job of keeping us updated, you know, graphically and spatially, so we can kind of show information that is exciting to present instead of just a spreadsheet. Sometimes Kyle and I just work in numbers and it's kind of boring, but Josh gets to look at nice pictures and make things presentable, and makes it fun and easy to understand for people.
Was it that program you described me in the hall one day, about 10K or something like that?
Oh, OpenGov?
Yeah.
No, so,
Okay.
yes, well, no, it's similar, but it's not quite, in my opinion, as robust as OpenGov. But we have postponed so for those of you that don't know, OpenGov is essentially a web platform that has a series of modules that will enable the city to interact with citizens at a greater extent. So, for instance, you could theoretically on OpenGov say, hey, we're interested in building an ice cream store, and we're gonna, you know, here's what we're gonna do. And you could put all the details associated with the ice cream store on the website. And citizens can go there and they can dig as deep as they want to go. So if you wanted to know specific line items in the budget that are affected by this ice cream store, that would be presented to you. You could see those budget line items over time. You could see how much money is in there. All of that information theoretically would be available. And then, you know, obviously city staff would be responsible for keeping that up. We have not moved forward with OpenGov. We've talked about it somewhat internally, but we haven't moved forward just yet because we're still trying to, I guess, gauge what our IT services are going to be in the future. That's still kind of in flux.
So if you'd like to see it, you can, I'll plug my own department. You can go to our GIS page or our website, and there's several links, but one is our mapping portal that has the development status project that he mentioned. Now, today that's taken down because I've got to update it, but it's down right at this moment. But like, starting April 1st, our new, solid waste pickup schedule will be on there. Our zoning maps up, our land use comp maps, all the, the basic information tools that people, you guys use, our staff use to make decisions on a daily basis. So it's out there. There's a permit viewer out there. You can see locations of permits and several links like that that are helpful.
That's great.
Any other questions for Josh? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I'm gonna surprise my son.
Next, we'll have Forrest come up and talk about planning.
Change a great deal, using one that I had my notes on. Where's it on the old page? I have on page 6 of 10, starting planning. Yes.
Yeah, that's 8 if you're using a super long.
Got it.
It should be substantially the same. And you're gonna have this.
And so planning will incorporate planning, economic development, and code enforcement. I think you guys know this, our department is a staff of 3, myself and Deborah and Josh, John Heisman, who's our code enforcement officer. Sort of, I don't know, Kyle, if you want to run through those again, you've already kind of gone through the.
Yeah, I would say let's just,
Starting
the
maybe at
HR piece, let's go to education and training.
And so, yes, go right ahead.
There is one additional line item, this overtime wages line item, that I don't think we saw in GIS. That's because Josh obviously is salaried, so he doesn't get overtime, he's just working to the bone. And,
That's my question.
That would be for Deborah to attend our meetings. She's hourly, so she gets overtime.
And so these salaries are split out. Some of our employees at the city have their salaries allocated across different segments, so it may all be in the general fund, but Deborah, for instance, is part planning and she's part economic development, if I remember correctly. So part of her salaries or salary equivalent is in both of those segments. Other people like
She's an hour.
she is, yes. We have another employee, Rhonda, who is part general fund, part solid waste, I want to say.
Yeah.
So her salary is in part in this fund, part in the other fund. So that's just a little nuance. Ultimately, it doesn't necessarily matter, but just in case you're curious. And then obviously, like Shane alluded to, overtime wages, those are for non-salaried employees who have to work overtime. You'll see a lot of this in public works, in Forest's department, and then various other departments. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out. So obviously, if you're salaried, you won't see it. If you are hourly, we'll have to make some kind of budget assumption. Sorry, story thunder too.
No, you're good. So I'll start, I guess, with the education training, and one thing to note about this, Tennessee state law has mandated that all of our planning commission, as well as the Board of Adjustment, Board of Appeals members have to have 4 hours of continuing education training per state law, and so we've incorporated that into the budget, so it's not just for myself, but also for those members. Moving down, okay, so probably one of the biggest interests is our $40,000 we have for planning and other professional services. And that's going to include multiple items. It's our asset management planning software. We've partnered a little bit with Josh, he's already gone, but split that up a little bit. But it's our permitting, it's our planning, it's our code enforcement software. That also includes our arborist consulting fees that we Emily and I utilize today and everything, I think it's their details. But when we have tree removal permits, sometimes we call in Eric Bridges, who's a former arborist and works for us on a consulting basis now. Had a capital outlay vehicle that is no longer in the budget for code enforcement, but just so you'll be knowing, just as a plug maybe for the coming years, his code enforcement vehicle was 2010, I think, so that may be something, and we may be looking at in the future years. Also, the maintenance, spoke to you about, we may need to increase that just a little bit, just because based on the age of that. Any other questions on planning? On to economic development.
The edge grant in this line item, is that the one that the chamber has secured, and there's no money there? Are we not matching any of that money for the edge grant?
Have it marked somewhere else too.
That, I believe the edge grant was already expended. That was the first one that we did February 14th-ish, if I remember
Okay,
correctly.
and then so with the new one that they have planned to clean up Highway 64 and all that, that's not reflected here, or is it reflected in another?
Yeah, I noticed on the first page, it's not there either. I was just wondering, am I looking at the wrong spot for that?
First page,
Well, just edge grant. Are there multiple edge grants?
to my knowledge, there is no expenditure right now or revenue allocated for edge grant.
No.
Really design.
So we provided the match, was it 2 years? The last 2 years? $30,000, was it just last year?
Well, it's supposed to be, well,
I guess I didn't just.
Yeah, if you already gave it.
Ongoing?
no, if we already gave it, we're good.
Yes.
So we're good. So nothing going into next year that I know.
Correct.
Yeah.
So to your point, Wesley and Michelle, if you look at 2018-2019 revised budget, that edge grant will show us as a $30,000, if I remember correctly, expenditure outside because the budget revision that you guys voted on in February.
Okay.
It just happened.
We're good.
Okay.
George, you said you had 40,000 for something?
Yes, sir. Our planning, permitting software, code enforcement software, as well as arborist consulting fees.
So we use a program called Beehive. We have done that for the last 4 years, 3 years. So we've been reviewing other options to kind of beef that system up and provide, again, more opportunities to provide timely data to staff and residents. So we've looked at a few options. We kind of picked one out that we really like and we think will be a great addition. And so if we had to prioritize from a budget standpoint, updating that system would be very high on our list of things to be accomplished.
So this is just upgrading the system that we already currently have?
Yes, it's kind of moving on from Beehive, which, and I think Josh would tell you, it served its purpose for the time we had it, but I think we've grown enough where Beehive is just not capable of keeping up with what we desire. So we need to kind of beef that system up and partner with another firm or software that can really meet our needs and for the next foreseeable future anyway moving forward. So staff has quite a lengthy review process of all kinds of different options from the software standpoint. I think we kind of narrowed it down and feel like that's a number that we would need to make that transition.
And this was before your time.
Yeah.
You have a very lengthy
Okay.
process, and it was tied as the be-all and end-all part of the fund. It was rather expensive. It was just, I think we're only, what, on year 3 of it? I mean, it's not like it's a
It's
long-
year 3, there's, and I was gonna get into it on mine, but I can get into it. So Beehive, at the time was what we could afford, and it was a good product. It was a spatial product, which we didn't have before. So it took our GIS data to all of our assets and made them where we could do work orders, and we could do permitting and code enforcement and all these things. So it served its purpose, but the integration was very, very lengthy, and it was, I think, because they don't have a great integration plan, and that's not something that we could predict, back then. But it is fully integrated and has been for the last couple of years. The mobile component is not ideal, so you have to use Surface Pro tablets, which are pretty high-dollar tablets. They're not really ruggedized, so it's not ideal for our field crews. Kind of what we're looking at is something that you can use a smartphone or just a tablet that has data plan with it, whereas now we've got these little hotspots. And that's one of the things. Beehive does not allow us to have much administrative control, so like adding materials and employees and things like that, kind of creating our own forms. It doesn't give us that capability. And so these new products that were really the higher end that we thought we'd never be able to afford have, there's 2 of them specifically that we've been looking at. They have started pricing population based. So now we could get that for an annual subscription, not much more than what we're paying now. We would have to go through another implementation, but we would get so much more service from them, and they have dashboards that can be customized to each individual department head, and it's just like the possibilities are endless. So we're really excited looking at this, and what we did, it was traditionally budgeted in Josh's GIS for data processing, and we divvied it out to the different departments that have the different assets. So like the solid waste fund and the sewer fund and some of these others should be paying their part of that because they're of a substantial amount of assets that are in this software. So what we've done is we've taken like the planning components and put those in planning under other professional services, and throughout the budget you'll see other professional services line items that will cover the cost through kind of my department, so do public works and solid waste and stormwater.
Okay, getting back to economic development, look at legal services, you said 25,000, that is IDB, Albright.
I have a question. Larry.
Yes, sir.
We're paying you more than we pay the city attorney. Is there a reason for that?
Sorry, is your question?
No, budget. His hourly rate is higher than we're paying our city attorney.
Albright's hourly? Yes, Albright is in a specific, highly, yes, thank you. It's very, very difficult to overstate Al's expertise in the matter of TIFs and economic planning. A lot of the money that you see in this line item was spent going through those TIFs that we entered into, I believe, last year. It would be difficult to find someone who could do comparable work that Al does without paying them as much as Al is expected to receive for his services.
Okay, just questioning that. I know what the services are, but I know what's happened last year, so, okay.
As far as revenue goes, at some point, we're going to enter into a contract where we start getting, I don't know what it's called, some sort of management fee on managing the actual TIF itself. Where do those revenues show? Does that management fee go back to pay back these expenses in the city?
I am not aware of a management fee as it relates to TIF. I can find out.
Keep moving on. So then we have other professional services under economic development, and that's going to be our consulting fees for Dexter Muller, our economic development consultant. Moving down to the Lakeland Chamber of Commerce, that's the grant that we provide to them for economic development purposes. And then we have our gateway signs grant, and that is essentially the cost of construction. One gateway sign on Highway 70 is going to be, that's the one that you got reviewed.
64.
Moved to 64,
I
yeah.
got moved to
Yeah.
64.
Okay.
Is that,
We're waiting on TDOT.
okay, I thought so, yeah.
They're going to take
To,
their time to-
clear it.
And so we did get a $25,000 enhancement grant for Shelby County to pay for that. It should be reflected. There's no other questions on economic development and code enforcement?
So all of these, as we go through, the 17% you mentioned in healthcare, that will apply to every one of the healthcare line items.
Yes.
For every, okay, just wanted to make sure.
There's a 17% for healthcare plus the 4% increase for, 5% increase for dental as well. That's all aggregated together.
Right, okay, that's what I figured.
So not much in the way of line items here, nothing shocking here, which I hold the line on. Our expenses stay the same or reduce when possible. The only, as I mentioned previously, we need to bump up that maintenance of vehicles because previously considered having a new vehicle in there, so there might be a little bit more maintenance. Other than that, pretty much, unless y'all have any questions.
Low cost area, that's. Real quick, can I go back to the economic development? I noticed with the Dexter Muller's line, it said 50,000 previous year. It was still with Dexter Muller, wasn't it? Was that, you negotiated something differently?
That's 2 years ago.
2 years ago?
That was the
17,
17.
17, 18.
Yeah, I don't know if something was combined with that back then.
Yeah, I
That's
just-
where we had Dexter.
the year before.
2 years ago, didn't we?
No,
So what line item are we looking at here?
Looking at other professional services.
Other, yeah. Yeah.
38K.
Well, I know,
If you go to
it did like this the year before, then this.
Yeah, I see what you're talking about, 50,000.
Yeah, look at actual,
I just,
17 and 18 actual, 33.
Is that good in Lake District, TIF, and all that stuff that's going on there?
I think we just didn't know how much it was gonna be.
just aim high just in case. That was, okay.
And now that I'm looking at this, I think I made it easier to tell.
Because of extra pay.
No, so the one that's labeled 2017, 2018 should be 2016, 2017. The one that's labeled 20, so basically switch the two columns. So for example, if you're looking at this other professional services, and if you read it from left to right, it looks like this year we're saying 36,000 is what we need. Last year we said 36,000, the year before we said 50,000, and then the year before that it went down to 36,000. You should really read, it started at 50,500, then it went to 36,000, so there's a decrease in that.
Okay, well, it makes more sense.
36,000.
Okay. It makes more sense. I was just wondering about that part. I was wondering this, what was going on. Okay.
Yeah, so just, I will revise this and send it back. It doesn't change the
Doesn't change.
budget itself, doesn't change the actual amounts, it just the two columns for reference on.
Just steer over it.
back that I switched. That's an oversight on my part. I think that's the issue there.
Other questions for Forrest? All right, thank you, sir. Thank you. Forrest had a marathon meeting last night, so.
Oh, you did, didn't you? Paper day.
4 hours long.
It was just their regular meeting. I don't know what all was on their agenda,
Ordinance amendments, and public hearings, pretty standard stuff, normal.
Yeah.
Really old first.
She just started towards the back.
What's a good place to start?
Do you want to do fine? Do you want to do fine with the review? I'm gonna be here all the time.
Yeah, that might
You
be.
got short trouble.
So maybe now is a good time to go to the president, since maybe also has a lot of say in some of that, some of the numbers and the numbers that we're assuming. So we'll just kind of take these line item by line item, starting on page 2. So this group that's called property taxes, total property taxes, those are property taxes that are based on a summary that I received from the Shelby County's assessor's office. So they send us a summary that tells us, our total assessed value is X, and I use that value to derive some of these amounts here. I can go into the formulas if you really want to, but I don't know that they're necessarily germane. The only thing really that you can, that you probably want to know is that these amounts are expected to increase. So obviously, real property tax, that's the main driver of our revenue. We expect to see that go up. There is a few line items here that are related to schools. That's, again, just an allocation of the assessed value of the property tax. Those numbers are expected to go up as well, with the exception of this TPSC utility tax amount. That number is very difficult to estimate. It's essentially a allocation of funds that we receive, and it's hard to estimate what that number is. It's been trending down since last year, so this year I assume that would also go down as well. I don't have any great assumption as to why I picked that $10,000 number. That's simply what I picked. But I expect that'll be somewhere in that range. It might be 10,500, it might be 9,500. I expect it to be somewhere around that. The next batch of taxes, the other local taxes, this is where you'll see your local option sales tax. So that number we expect to increase. Obviously, some of that is going to be driven through growth of the city. Some of that is expected to be driven through the fact that, we'll have more shopping and dining locations for people to utilize. So that number is expected to increase relatively dramatically.
It's a big difference between,
Yeah, that's
so we're gonna make that up.
We're open. Wholesale beer taxes and liquor taxes, those are just obviously taxes that we charge to people for drinking.
We don't have anything about the drink tax here, do we? Unless Cracker Barrels.
I don't think the city receives any money if there is a liquor by the drink tax. I think there is.
We're doing beers, but we don't have any provided liquor by the drink. No one provides it here.
Yeah.
But that's a good question. If we did, what would it generate?
Yeah, I can find out and report back. I'm not sure about
But it's showing, what you're saying is revenue there.
this is all wholesale.
Right.
So if you
Okay.
go-
Let's look about the drink tax.
No,
Okay.
wholesale is not under.
Okay, gotcha, okay.
Retail.
Okay.
Okay, sorry. So we can, total other local taxes, those are, again, just, these are pretty much estimates. There's no formula necessarily, there's no MCAS, suggested amount per capita that we use to back into these amounts. These are just my best guess as to what these amounts will be based on historical information, what I know or think to be happening in the future. To the extent that you guys feel these numbers are inadequate or inappropriate, we can change them. But this is just my best guess. I don't have a great reason as to why I selected these numbers, except that this is what I selected.
One general, one over the world question here on the cable franchise tax for cable and stuff. Is there any effort to get cable out to the parts of the city don't have, like people on the east side and people on this side of the river and that kind of stuff? That came up.
I know that in the neck of the woods that I live in, there will be some fiber installed. Ritter Communications right now, I as well as my neighbors have DSL. So I didn't realize that. I thought everyone had high-speed internet these days, but we don't. But
I heard you did.
yeah, so that was a little bit of a shock to us when we figured out that we didn't have that. Probably something we should have researched a little more. But I know Ritter, a lot of my neighbors have petitioned Ritter for improved service, and they will be installing this summer fiber in and around that area. I'm not sure exactly what streets they'll be going down, but that service will be improved, at least on the north side, in certain sections of the north side.
One of the Chambers Chapel, next cousin too. We asked about that.
We made a big effort
East of Cobbing.
towards that a couple of years ago and ran into a brick wall with AT&T. Not wanting to provide any cable or underground fiber. They were not ready to do that because the density was not large enough in that area.
So our neighborhood, we got the one cable from the fiber optic, so we're out my side of the street, and they said I lose all the benefit by the time they got down to copper wire from my house, so I couldn't stick what I had for those years.
That's been a couple of years ago, so that may be another something that we need to explore this time to see if there is any other option or any other company that would be willing. And if there's success with Ritter, perhaps we need to talk with them about coming down and looking around that area as well.
Just a personal experience, I had an office that was a four-story in Poplar, which is a Target, huge shopping center. And my office is currently facing Poplar, and I have great internet access. I wanted to save a few bucks, and so I'm moving to the back of the facility. And apparently it's going to cost, because everyone is using another option besides Comcast or whatever, it's going to cost too much to take these services. So, I'm sure there's other options, but at the same time, you don't think about that being smack dab in the middle of it.
It's the area that you have the problems with. Who wants to take the risk to get out into those areas? There's some population spread out, larger areas to run the cable, so.
There's so few of them, there's kind of a monopoly.
There was a state law, the governor, and basically was trying to get more high-speed in rural areas. And I didn't realize that they felt like rural was like 15 or 20,000 or less. So we didn't feel like we fell under that category that the government is. However, with our population size, we don't actually might be coming, but Shelby County, so that may be something to revisit.
Yeah, there was specific legislation to that point a couple of years ago.
All right, so taxes. The next group, total licenses and permits, these are fees that are mostly charged to developers for various items. I'll probably defer to Emily to speak to some of these guys.
So what I do, some of them are, the ones I come up with are the ones related to development contracts. So I look at what phases the current developments are in, and they're all mostly developments that are already working in, maybe phase 1 and phase 2. And so I just try to estimate, kind of based on where they're at right now, do I see the next phase development contract being paid next year? And so I take that number and plug it into my spreadsheet that kind of calculates the development fees for the contract. So that's like drainage control fees and park improvement fees, admin fees, gas mapping fees, those kind of things are all based on that estimate that I put together. I think Forrest did like the building permit fee, I believe it was based on like 90 some odd building permits, so we felt like we most likely will at least get 90, maybe more, but we want to be somewhat conservative because it's driven by the builder, so we don't have very much control over that. And some of the other permits, so Forrest did like the land disturbance permit, sign permit, fence permit, those kind of things he predicted, kind of based on previous years and assumptions. So that's how those fees are calculated.
There's a cell tower fee on that.
Yeah, so that didn't work too.
Is the cell tower that's at Lakeland Elementary active yet?
So it's
It
big.
is.
Just for Verizon, isn't it?
No, I think it's a private company that have multiple carriers on
I
it.
think so.
Yeah.
Is there supposed to be, the
Don't
revenue,
be
the revenue goes to school, right?
Okay. Now, we have a permit, so we collect, we should have collected, maybe that's what that 2,000, no? We should have collected a permit fee for that cell tower, but then we don't get any fees, so the school leases that space to them. We don't have any towers on city properties currently.
But the schools get paid now.
They have a lease.
Yeah.
That was a question I had, a phone call from a resident, I believe it was Oakwood, who has to go outside, or not, has to go to one room of their house to get cellular service.
It's in a bowl. It's pretty bad on some
She
streets.
was asking if that tower has been activated, so I haven't had a chance to talk to the schools about that, but evidently it is activated.
I would assume it's been up for almost a year.
Yeah.
It's been up for a
It's-
while.
I've
I
heard
don't know,
it's-
we haven't checked back in. Because
Well,
once
I've
the
heard it
construction-
hadn't.
Maybe it hasn't.
Because the school is also a dead zone. You
Okay.
can't get the service
Like it's
there.
not,
When you
well, you know.
work there, I mean,
Yeah.
you can lean like close to your window and maybe catch a signal, but it's very rare. In the extensive emergencies you would like to have.
Sure. Yeah, the school's a black
Yeah,
hole.
I don't know.
It's just noticing.
I mean, I'm just assuming because the construction was last year that it's active, but I haven't verified that.
I thought I heard somebody was, but still.
But it is a
Hopefully
private,
they'll
so
rectify
a lot of the towers these days, it's a private company that owns and maintains that tower, and then they sell off space, they lease space for the different carriers, so they co-locate. Seems like it would be a good business to be in.
That's what I was
Some of the
thinking.
guys like, that seems pretty profitable.
I was thinking that.
Why didn't I think of that?
Boo-hoo money.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to total grants. So these obviously are grants that are related to general fund projects. Some of these grants are relatively new. For instance, Kevin has secured some grant funding for Zeta Cool park improvements, and there's some additional grant money. I think that's also going to be used for Zeta Cool, just from a different source. And then, of course, he secured a grant related to the athletic complex. Emily, you know, herself has secured some grant funding for various projects within the city. I think this is just specific to general fund, and everything related to other funds would be represented in those other funds. But yeah, this is our best estimate as to what those revenues might be. intergovernmental line items, so these are revenues that are shared with us via the state. Richard, I think this
Yeah,
goes
they're-
to
they're-
the point of strict tax. As you can see, we haven't really gotten a lot of money from it. I just checked Skyward, actually, this is accurate. There's not a lot of activity in that specific intergovernmental.
We wish there were.
Yeah, so all of this is based on MTAS suggestions. MTAS obviously is the, I forget what the acronym stands for, but essentially it's a division of the University of Tennessee, which is responsible for helping local municipalities with various endeavors. They have a page on their website which has a rate at which you can extrapolate, I guess, what these amounts may be. So, for example, TVA paid in lieu of taxes, they may tell you it's expected to be $11.80 per citizen this year. So you take that $11.80, multiply it by our population. I've assumed our population for this endeavor is 12,430 people. I think that was based on our census in 2010, maybe. And that's how I derived these numbers here. Obviously, those may fluctuate, they may not, but that's what MTS thinks is appropriate, so I defer to that for this group of revenues.
With all income tax, we got that safety state.
Yes, so the all income tax is decreasing. It's paid out, I think, one time a year, so we haven't received our payment this year. That's why you'll see this year-to-date activity is blank. But that line item is going away, so there will be some need to either account for it or just, the budget for the fact that it will no longer be a source of revenue in the near future.
Near future.
I think
Next year.
2021.
Yeah.
Fixes that. So yeah, but it'll go to zero very, very soon. This next group of revenues, total charges for services. So this is mostly related to Kevin's activities. Obviously, Kevin is the Parks Director. So most of his activities that he's putting forward in this budget are going to be self-sustaining. And these are the revenues associated with those self-sustaining projects. Obviously, code enforcement charges is not one of Kevin's line items, but for the most part, the rest of these are. And so this is what he expects to bring in revenue for various activities that the city offers through its Parks Department.
Has that been cleaned up to where you can show the revenue and the expense and then what else is paid for through taxes, that kind of stuff? I think it was kind of a mess there.
So I think the short answer is it is still a mess, but I think the reason that it's a mess is because they are basically non-fundable monies, right? So there's no separate fund that the Parks Department uses to pay for their services. It's just general fund dollars. However, most of the projects that Kevin does are self-sustaining. There are obviously some projects which do require general fund dollars, but I would say the vast majority are self-supporting, revenue-generating projects.
Well, for instance, then we could get his page, soccer 70K. But I'd like to see something to see how much revenue comes in, the revenue for user fees, that's what we're talking about. And I guess any concession fees that's going on. And then, the expenses, referees, equipment, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think,
We'll never see that at some point.
I think we can pull that information. Most of that should be contained in Skyward, which is our reporting software. I don't imagine that would be particularly difficult to generate. It may be hard to track specifically, if this invoice was related to soccer.
I think it's important that there's user fees, and each program should have a budget that says, this is what, we produce revenue, this is what the cost were, this is the tax dollars, something like that, which is important.
Yeah, and I think you can look at some of the history, when you look at the expenditure line item under recreation,
Yes.
under page 12. And
Yeah.
Yeah. soccer.
Yeah, you can see what the expenditure was for each of the revenue generators.
But just a breakout of the budget, you know, this is the budget, you know, he makes so much off of that, you know, you can look at it and see what it's costing us. That's what I'm curious.
To my knowledge, Kevin keeps the spreadsheets. When we sat down and had our individual budget session, when he generated the numbers, and I just sat there and put them in the spreadsheet. He had a pretty extensive budget already, so I'm sure he's accounted for those things. I specifically can't speak to what those line items will be, but I'm sure we can put our heads together and come up with something to that extent.
I think the other thing to keep in mind is just the purpose of parks and recreation, and that the quality of life amenities that provides our residents. And it's hard to transition from, you know, when you look at a business plan, you look at, you know, is that business making money? Obviously, Parks and Rec, you got to think a little bit more globally and what that brings, what that soccer program brings, or what this recreation program brings to our residents and the quality of life that results from those things.
I agree, that's one, I'm just curious to see,
Yep.
you know, revenue, how much revenue comes in there, how much is offset the cost.
Yep.
That's the picture we see. Yep.
All right, other revenue, this is really a miscellaneous catch-all group. These are various revenue generating items. None of them generate copious amounts of resources to the city. These are things like interest, or, you know, if we sold something, or if we have some court costs or something to that extent. Again, not a lot of activity in these specific revenue generating line items, but that's what they are. So in aggregate, if you add up all of those line items, you're looking at about $10.5 million of revenue being generated this fiscal year. Sorry, the proposed 2019 fiscal year. I guess I'll just keep going and we'll kind of step through some.
Somebody need a break? You know, grab a sandwich before we get into the.
Yeah, it might be a good time.
We'll get into the expenditure side. Let's take a quick 10 minutes. Right.
Two sandwiches.